Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode... I don't even know what episode. Episode 12. Yes, it's Episode 12, the penultimate episode of Season 2. Welcome to Les Oderants. I'm joined, as always, by Ben, Fliss and James. Say hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
That was really slack, James.
Sorry.
He's got a new setup. Have you seen that? Look at his new setup. Means he's just like, he's all relaxed in his chair and he just leans a little bit to the left to speak into his mic. It's so louche.
Hi. Yeah. James will now be sounding much more louche in all recordings. Okay, so perfume-y stuff. I wanted to report on two things. Firstly, I wanted to report... in fact, let me ask you this. Right? Let me ask you this. If I said Joe Malone does a fragrance for Zara, what would your immediate reaction be?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, what do you think it's going to be?
Do you mean the authentic Joe
for
Malone or the Joe Malone brand? Do you mean Joe Malone, the woman?
Yeah.
She's done a fragrance for Zara.
She's done a range of them.
I'd be a bit not interested, to be honest. I'd be a bit like, oh, right, that's nice.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I think with Joe Malone and Zara, you are combining two of the least interesting things to me in perfumery. And I am pleased to report my expectations have been entirely confounded by Leather Jardin, which is fucking spectacular, and they had it on clearance for like £15 the other week. It is a brilliant perfume. It is a sort of slightly powdery floral leather with a rose and I think some sort of citrus niceness on top, but it's sort of it's simultaneously polite, but animalic. It's powdery, but sort of also quite thick and fruity. It's absolutely brilliant, and it lasts all day long. It smells amazing, and it cost £15. And I am blown away.
Wow.
Completely confounded expectations. So I was that excited that I wanted to report on that.
It's definitely not a clone or anything, because Zara have got a track record, haven't they, of doing like cheapo clones, which are nothing wrong with that, but you know, depending on where you stand on clones. But this is definitely not. This is a.
This is definitely not.
Is this from Zara?
Does it say Zara on it?
I don't know. Right, my mate came round to my house and went, "Oh, you like fragrances, don't you?" Oh, look at this that I wear.
I always worry when people say that.
Yeah.
You like perfumes, don't you? Have you ever heard of Sauvage?
Well, this is it. He brought this round and he went, yeah, okay. And I just literally went and like smelled the cap and went, oh, right, okay. It's a Tobacco Vanille clone. It's called 01 Fierce. I think it is from Zara. Doesn't say on it.
Sounds brilliant.
They often don't put Zara on their branding, though, do they? They just...
it just says 01 Fierce Eau de Toilette. Anyway, and then I said, oh, you left that fragrance round here the other day. And he said, no, I left it for you to keep. And I was like, actually, I don't want it. Sorry. I've got enough shit fragrances that I don't want. Sorry, I'm not being ungrateful. I'm just like, I don't like it. In fact, you can have my Tobacco Vanille if you want. Because he said, it's a copy of a Tom Ford one. And I was like, well, not only do I not want this, but maybe you could have that as well.
I don't even want the original.
If you like it so much. And he was like, oh, right, okay. And I think he felt a bit offended because I think he brought that round for me. So sorry, Maxwell, if you're listening. You won't be listening, so it doesn't matter.
I'm just looking at the Leather Jardin, and they've got all of their fragrances are on clearance, apart from that on their website. Oh. So you had a bargain, my friend. You really did.
I did.
It's $25.99 on the old website.
$25.99. Yeah. Oh, still, this is a bargain at fucking £50. If this was in a Roger Dove bottle, people would be wanking themselves into oblivion over this one. They would be
You're laughing at your own.
No, I laughed at the image that was in my head, and then I thought, no. Appropriate filter.
My regular Saturday night, that is. Wanking myself into oblivion, crying and crying myself to sleep afterwards.
Wanking myself blind over this perfume.
Yeah, images in your head don't work on a podcast. You need to be graphic and explain it all, or no one will get it. You know,
right. Trousers round my ankles.
No,
not you.
There wasn't a cue to talk us through your technique.
Although I'm pretty interested now. I've had a little taste. Come on.
No. Right. Okay. This is absurd. People are going to think we're animals.
What? They didn't last week or the week before? Or the week before? Or the week before?
I don't know. I don't even know what I'm doing with you people. No. I feel like you just it debases me.
Hand-picked, weren't we? Were we hand-picked?
Hand-picked. Oh, yeah. There's a wanking joke in there. Right. So, anyway, let me move on to something else.
Anything else?
Anything else. Yeah, anything other than wanking. I was very, very, very enthusiastic about that Zara perfume, though. I think it's a fucking brilliant piece of work. And it's actually... I know Jo Malone sold her Jo Malone brand off to, Megacorp One or whatever, and now they've turned it from what was mediocre twaddle to kind of even less good twaddle.
But she has her own brand called Jo Loves, doesn't she?
Which I've not tried,
no,
but I've had no interest in trying it because of the sort of mediocrity of the sort of flagship brand. But I have to tell you, this Zara exclusive. It does say Zara exclusive number 4 on the bottom. Leather Jardin is just phenomenal, and I commend this perfume to you. The other thing I wanted to mention was I got to meet one of my perfumery heroes. And I might even put the picture on the Instagram as a story or something.
Did you do a full-on Wayne's World? We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
More or less, yeah. So I attended a thing. What's it called? The Osmotech, which is a word that I didn't even believe was real until a few weeks ago when Fliss first used it. But I attended a presentation by the Osmotech in Manchester. The tickets I won. Like, it's the first competition I've won ever, but I won from the Pulse of Perfumery. Shout out to those guys because they're fucking awesome. Although I know only one of them listens to this podcast. So, but anyway, I won a ticket, or 2 tickets from Pulse of Perfumery to attend this Osmotech presentation in Manchester, and it was hosted by none other than Stephanie Bakouche, who is the perfumer who created my absolute, ride or die Invasion Barbar. And so I got to meet her. And I sort of went up to her at the end. I said, oh, hi, Stephanie. I'm Dan. And she looked at me like, who the fuck are you? And I said, and it's the first time I've ever had to do this. I introduced myself as the fragrance weirdo. And she went, Dan! And gave me a hug, and all was well in the world. I thought, God, don't leave me hanging here. She's going to who the fuck are you? But no, she was absolutely lovely, and she seemed as pleased to meet me as I was to meet her. It was fantastic. So I had a proper little sort of fanboy moment meeting Stephanie Bakouche. But the Osmotech was superb. They had I didn't know that this is quite how it works. I know, Fliss, you've explained it before, but they basically have a sort of all the formulas for all these kind of perfumes throughout the ages, and what they do is they just mix up kind of micro batches according to the original formulas, not for sale or anything, but precise reconstructions of the original formulas. And so I got to try a whole bunch of things, including Eau de Mez, which was honestly, I nearly fucking cried. It is that good. It's fucking phenomenal. It's just, I don't know, there's a sort of cumin, dirty bastard
it's
cumin
so
leather,
filth.
but also so gloriously fresh and dynamic, and it was wonderful. Honestly,
I've got literally 15 ml left from an original release bottle from the first year it was released.
Oh wow!
And it's my precious.
Yeah, I bet.
And it's fucking stinks, but it's so delicious. It's just it makes my eyes go back in my head. It's just filth in a bottle, but it's beautiful fresh filth.
Just amazing stuff. And I mean, they had a whole bunch of things that I tried. Sort of also rans for me were like Fiji, which didn't blow my balls off, which I guess is probably convenient. Paco Rabanne pour Homme, but I have an original of that anyway, so wasn't that impressed. Charlie, the original Charlie, which was
the original Charlie. See, that's so of its time, isn't it? And it turns really easily. So actually, if you're trying to buy it, if you try to buy it secondhand or you try to buy it vintage, so many of them have turned.
Well, yeah,
because everyone's mum kept them on the bathroom windowsill. So it's really hard to find a good one now.
So these were all kind of freshly compounded, and totally. That made them, I guess, more just fucking delicious. Amazing. But Chanel Pour Monsieur as well, an original Eau Sauvage. And I mean, I love Eau Sauvage. I know, James, you're a huge Eau Sauvage fan, but smelling that very first fucking imagination of it was just something else. It is so bright and fucking glorious and dynamic compared to the modern one, which is still great, but the modern one sort of smells much more, I guess, I want to say vanilla. It doesn't smell vanillic, but it's, you know, it's just a bit toned down. It's a bit more middle of the road. There's not quite as many sharp edges and stuff. That original one just absolutely sings, and it is fucking amazing. And I just came out of there thinking, oh, mate, I'm going to try and find a vintage bottle of this and a vintage bottle of that.
I think the problem is, I think what the Osmotique does is amazing, because not only for, you know, recognizing art and preserving those formulas and things, which is really important thing that they're doing. I've always said this, that like intent of the perfumer is really important to me, and it's really difficult with a lot of those old perfumes, because you're never going to smell them not degraded or changed or whatever. And the thing with like an Eau Sauvage is that I kind of like, I've got old vintage bottles from like maybe like 80s, whatever, like I've maybe got some 80s, 90s ones, which are probably pretty good, you know, closer to the original intention. And I can smell obviously the base and the kind of richer things. And then I've got my modern bottle, which all the top stuff smells a lot brighter and nicer and things. So I often think the kind of marriage of those two things, that's what I want to smell, like the original. And that's exactly what obviously you've had access to. And so that's why, you know, clearly it's a really interesting thing for anyone who loves perfumery.
We were actually talking about the Osmotique last week with Christophe Laudemel for our Patreon interview, and he was saying that it's the only place that is purely academically interested in perfume. There's no, you know, financial gain to be had by it. Everyone's volunteers or whatever, and he has... he's sponsored 3 of the perfumes, and you can sponsor a perfume, so you pay a certain amount of money a year and they make sure that batch is always kept fresh and it's kept up to date, and you can go to them and say, I'd like to sponsor a perfume, and they'll talk to you about which perfume you want to sponsor, and you can even, it's really interesting as a place, I think. Well, I really need to go. Well, I really, really need to go.
What they're doing with these sort of road shows is essentially like perfume advocacy, right? So they just going around the world spreading the gospel of fucking perfume.
Fucking good perfume as well.
But I think it's a brilliant thing to do. I mean, the room was basically just enthusiasts, right? You don't sort of show up at something like that by accident, I don't think. But yeah, some really just amazing experience. And I did sort of have. I mean, I had a bit of a noodle around looking for kind of, well, could I get an eau d'Hermès? But then you take your fucking life in your hands. It's a pure gamble as to whether or not this is still, intact at all. There's a good chance the whole thing's turned to piss and vinegar. In that sort of time.
Well, now you're on sort of first name or IG handle terms with Stephanie Bacouche.
Me and Steph.
Couldn't she knock one up for you?
Yeah, I might ask her. Oi, Steph.
Sure
Oi, Steph.
I have a question.
Could you just knock up one of them?
So obviously they've got the original formulas. So what about the materials? Do they approximate as close as they can, or
no? They're non-IFRA because they're not for sale.
Yeah, but I mean, there must be materials that just aren't available anymore.
Well, so that is a good question. In terms of the general palette of materials, my understanding is that it is sort of sponsored by all the main fragrance houses, like your Firmenich and Simrise and Givaudan and all that sort of lot. And so they certainly have access to all of to all of the patented kind of materials that are out there at the moment. But I don't know about discontinued stuff. A lot of it's
largely overstated how important like a certain sandalwood would be in a certain composition. Yes, if it's primarily made up of loads of that sandalwood, then yeah, maybe, some of those things. But there's not a lot of materials, and there's certainly not a lot of, molecules and aroma chemicals that just aren't available. As Fliss was saying, yeah, they're definitely either restricted or banned, and like I say, if they're not for sale and people know what they're using, so they'll have the Liril and the Lilial and all those things that are kind of been sort of recently unavailable to use. So I honestly don't think that necessarily having the same lemon oil that they used from wherever it might be. I mean, it might have been, an amazing material or whatever, but there's definitely stuff that's around now that will approximate it, or you'd have to have the most amazing nose to be able to tell. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever. So I don't think that plays such a big part. I think that's more enthusiasts romanticizing, materials and being like, oh, well, surely they can't make this again. Like, for example, the Eau Sauvage. I mean, that is pretty simple in terms of and what's around. I'm sure you could make that with materials that I could buy. Do you know what I mean? Like, I could probably buy small amounts of everything that was in the original formula, I believe, and knock it up,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great night out. Thank you to the Pulse of Perfumery for organising those tickets, and it was an absolute pleasure to meet my old mate Steph.
Steph.
Yeah, me and Steph. Close, isn't it?
I think I'll be doing that every year then, because, like I say, unfortunately I wasn't able to go. But
yeah, I honestly don't know. But if they do, it's a very strong recommendation that you come along and we do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should all go.
Really
to be honest.
enjoyed it.
But I think what's interesting is that I know people who were instrumental in starting the Osmotique was Jean-Claude Elena and one of my favourite perfumers, Guy Robert. I didn't actually realise how sort of much he was involved in it, which I just think is great because obviously they've had the sort of vision to do that just purely for the love of perfume, you know.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Just it is good shit. Good shit. Right. Let's get into perfumes, what people have been wearing. Ben, you've been awful quiet, so you get to go first. Tell us all about your perfumes.
The vast majority is we're going to be talking about in the second half, so I can keep this one fairly short. I do you know what? I wore Paco Rabanne 1 Million Royal.
Get the fuck out.
I know. When I say
you are fired.
Well,
you are disbarred.
Well, it can't be worse than the Snoopy he was wearing about 4 episodes ago.
It was worse, trust me. It's unfortunately, despite it being a flanker of 1 million, it's too much like 1 million, and made me want to kill myself after about 5 minutes. I didn't even want it on me. So basically, this is the story. My mum got a fragrance, and she got it in the package with that, like a tester for that. So she came over for coffee, and she was like, "Oh, you like fragrances, don't you? I've got this. Look, try this sample," and just sprayed it on me. And I was like, "Guess I'm wearing this shit for the rest of the day then."
You bastard, Mum.
So then I kicked her out my house, and I
emancipated. You divorced your mother. Is that what they call it?
I sort of resigned myself to the fact that I was going to wear that then. And yeah, it was fucking awful, as you'd imagine. So it's too much like 1 million to really beat. It's just horrible, isn't it? It's a really kind of thick, heavy. I don't fucking know, because that was the one that came.
Is that the new 1 million?
Possibly. It's I don't know.
What's it called?
Who gives
1 million Royal.
Why are we giving it airtime?
Yeah. But there was that one that came out a little while back that people sort of loved, wasn't there? That flanker of it. It was a 1 million elixir or something. Well, it's you know, it's the same old shit. It's just repulsive.
People have got no fucking taste. So people have got no fucking taste. There are, in fact, people out there who think that Burger Mask is a masterpiece. So you know, people have no fucking taste.
Do you know what I was going to do tonight? And I could have done it, and it would have been a ridiculous practical joke, but I didn't. I was actually going to make a mask out of burgers and wear it, like fucking weird and shit. But I thought, no, that's stupid.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I actually got sent. Brandon is working with another guy on some fragrances, and he wanted a videographer, and I put them in touch with a mate of mine who I've known since forever. Anyway, my mate Bez, not like Bez from the Happy Mondays, but my mate Bez.
Has he got a castle?
That would be fun. Yeah, he's got a castle for Bez. Bez sent me a picture. He'd obviously been blagged into it of him, Brandon, and this other guy, and it just said, "We all think that Burger Mask is a masterpiece." And I said, do you even know what this means? He's like, no, they just said I needed to send that to you. It's not fucking dickheads. They're winding me up everywhere.
So he's doing his own line of fragrances for the fucking TikTok generation. Is that what it is?
I guess so. I think, he's got a lot of fucking TikTok subs. So he's got like 250,000 subs or something, which I think is a big deal. My experience of TikTok is that, well, basically, my 13-year-old daughter spends her life watching TikTok, and I think she's fairly typical of TikTok viewers in that she has no money at all. Great for sort of pushing advertising out and getting eyeballs, but she ain't buying anything. So I've actually Brandon sent me some samples of their first mods, and they're actually really decent. It's a sort of chocolatey patchouli, suede sort of thing. They're definitely not clones. They are trying to make a new mass appealing fragrance, and I think he's going to churn out some pretty decent stuff actually. So good on him. But fucking Burger Mask. If that's his inspiration, he's in trouble. Anyway, I'll let it go. I will let it go eventually. So apart from this Paco Rabanne,
dreadful. Don't worry about that.
Of shit.
Do you know what? Mostly the stuff in the second half, except from today, I was wearing Ormond Jane Woman to see if I still wanted to buy it or not. And it's
Did
lovely.
you?
It's really good. It's I still like that opening. Is really strange. It's like green, but not in the way. It's not like a stemmy sort of floral green. Or even a grassy green. It's a weird sort of like nettly spice sort of thing.
The note is called hemlock. Now I don't really know what hemlock would smell.
Sounds like witches.
Isn't hemlock a sort of traditionally a poison of some sort? I'd have thought hemlock would be something you cover in dark history somewhere. I'm sure people got poisoned with hemlock. And I don't know what it smells like.
Don't know what it smells like.
I don't know what it smells like, but I guess I sort of infer what it smells like from that perfume. I don't have any other point of reference.
Well, I reviewed it again the other week, and I noticed I read some reviews on Fragrantica just as I was putting it up. And I looked, and so many people were like, "Oh yeah, you can like really smell the hemlock." And I'm like, I don't know what hemlock fucking smells. How do you know what hemlock smells? How do all these people know what hemlock smells like? I'm not being funny, but there seems to be a lot of people who are knowledgeable about hemlock, and I'm like, are you?
Well, I suspect they're not, but I suspect what they are doing is smelling the thing that they've not smelt before and going, well, that must be the hemlock. Which is probably not unreasonable.
No.
But it's like, this is what hemlock smells like.
It definitely sort of matches up with like what I think I was smelling. Like my idea of what hemlock is, like, you know, like saying like a kind of like poison, like sort of like herbal weed kind of thing. I don't know, like something a bit sort of green, spiky, and that is kind of what it smells like. A little bit sort of herbal, a little bit spicy, but really nice. I love it. As I say, I think it's a really interesting opening, and it dries down lovely. It gets more feminine, I think, as it dries down, but not in again, not in a particularly obvious way. I feel like it's.
I don't think it's particularly.
No, I definitely think it can like you could have. I remember when we first spoke about it, and I said I was surprised that it was, you know, the sort of flagship Ormond Jane Woman perfume, and then it's so like unisex. But I thought it was really good. It's. I don't think there's anything obvious about it. I think that's what I like about it, is that it doesn't smell like off the wall and horrid and sort of experimental in any way. It smells fairly not commercial as such, but it smells fairly mass appealing. But at the same time, it doesn't smell at all like anything else I've smelled. It's fairly, you know, it's pretty unique. I like that about it. I think it's good. Apart from that, everything we'll be talking about in the second half, so I'll keep stum for that.
Groovy. Oh, I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the stuff we're talking about in the second half, which, by the way, for people who are tuning in, is the work of Carter Weeks. Is that? Am I pronouncing Carter Weeks Maddox? Sorry, Carter Weeks Maddox, who owns a brand called Chronotope, and has also done some work on another brand that called Effrement et Evocateur. Is that right? That sounds wrong to me.
No, that's I think. Effronte et Evocateur,
fair enough. So we're going to be getting into all of that in part 2, because there's some fucking wild stuff in there. Fliss, what's your week in perfume biz been like?
Well, I mean, I'm sorry to say, I know last episode, I was like, I've just been trawling through my own collection for a bit of emotional peace and stability. I kind of did the same thing again, to be honest, until we started doing the Chronotope stuff. Hippie Rose by Healy is a really lovely, fresh patch rose or rose patchouli thing. I bought half a bottle for a song on one of the groups.
Did you actually have to sing the song?
If I did, they would have been entranced.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm sure. But it was just really nice. It's just really nice. And it was like, it's not difficult. It's just, but it's kind of fun. It's a lovely rose with that hippie patchouli without it being so hippie that you can't wear it to work. But at the same time, if you are just wearing it out during the day, you don't feel like a fuddy-duddy complete rose soliflor thing. It's not old-fashioned, it's nice. And I wore that for quite a long time. I also wore a lot of Amouage Figment Woman, which is... I got it in as like my friend Terry sent me like a load of these, 1, 2, 3, 4 samples that I then have to smell and send back and guess what they are. And that was about 18 months ago. And one of them was Figment Woman. And I kind of dismissed it at the time. And then I found the samples again a couple of weeks ago and I sprayed it on and I was like, oh my God, I was an idiot. And it's just really lovely, calming. It smells, it's white flower forward, but it's not, how can I say, it just smells like fucking posh soap. It smells like Bridgerton soap. It smells like the soap that you would find in, I don't know, very nice country house that, some posh lady wears. It just smells redonkulously expensive and it's easy to wear. It smells like Nivea plus Posh and Spices, but in the most clean way. And I wore it to my little boy's sports day and I had about 19,000 compliments. So I know, literally people just coming up to me going, oh, hi, you Ethan's mum, you smell great. And I was like, wow, okay, this is cool. I don't normally chase compliments like that. And normally I'm like the anti-compliment chaser, but I have to say I felt pretty nice. I fucking loved it. It was so nice.
For the benefit of people who cannot see her little face, she really is as happy as a little piglet rolling around in shit at the moment. She's
really
over the moon about it.
I got a little bit pink, haven't I? So I wore that a lot actually, and I really enjoy it, and it's very long lasting, and it's just fresh and clean. And if you don't want a citrus cologne in this hot heat, or it was hot when I was wearing it, less hot now, it's just lovely, a really gorgeous. And interestingly, the Figment Man is absolutely the opposite. The Figment Man is like jasmine heavy, smells like wet earth. It's very different. But yeah, the woman is great. Having just slagged off citrus colognes, I wore a load of Eau de Sud by Annick Goutal. I got my hands on a 1996 bottle, which is one of the first wave of releases, and it's lovely. It's limes and oak moss. That's it.
Wow.
And it's really good. I have no idea what the current formulation's like, but the oak moss in my bottle, and it was a real partial. There was about 20 ml left in the bottle, and I was just like hoping to hell it hadn't turned, and it hadn't. It was gorgeous. I also, talking of vintages, got my hands on a pre-1976 Shalimar cologne. So the box has got no batch code on it, nothing like that. And it's in one of those big circle bottles with a little orange, little triangular tops. And the seller was actually really honest, and they said the top notes have turned slightly, but it still smells amazing. And I was like, because I bought another Shalimar about 2 months ago that had completely turned and whatever. So I was like, oh God, let's go for it. And they were right. The top has ever so slightly turned, but within 60 seconds, oh my God, it's phenomenal. And the dry down is a world away from the modern cologne. It's really leathery, really smoky, lasts for ages. I'm really pleased. And I got it for like 35 quid because the top notes had turned. So that made me very happy. And the last thing I want to talk about is Ben you sent me Oud Infinite.
Yeah.
And when it got a bit cooler, I wore it.
Go on. I'm intrigued.
I really like it.
Hey.
I was
kidding.
No, for me, there was so much in common with Kuros and Marbet. There's that really furry, stinky, animalistic feel to it. It didn't feel... I was expecting to really fucking hate it. And I was actually like, I could wear this. I was really not...
I don't think it's as bad.
I was like, I'll put another spritz on. Spritz. Here we go.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
I don't really get the connection with Marbet and Koros particularly.
No,
because it's animalic. I get that it's animalic, but I think like they're more like that dirty hair, like Costas, like greasy sort of thing. Whereas like that's more like slightly muck spreading. Like a.
No, I didn't. But I didn't really get any of the muck spreading. I did get furry and hairy. I need to do a side-by-side comparison, I have to say.
Well, you're wrong.
When I smelt it, I didn't... Okay, that's okay. Well, but I didn't... I was expecting to smell shit, and I didn't smell shit.
Well, that's good.
And I'm always the first person that can smell the shit. I'm always the first person to go, oh my God, that's really shitty oud. And I didn't smell that at all.
So,
I smelt furry animalics.
This is super interesting to me because I'm increasingly convinced that different people just perceive the shitty notes in oud very differently. So, the obvious examples for me are now Oud Infinite, which is, for me, it's just so skanky and filthy and barnyardy. And, I mean, it smells like fucking outright manure to me, right? But it means nothing of the sort to you. But then I don't think Strangelove Fall into Stars is remotely skanky. I don't understand it. Yet everyone's going, it's so fecal and animalic.
I think maybe we sort of align on that. I think our noses are possibly quite similar in that sense, Dan, because I'm exactly the same. Sorry, Ben.
No, it's right. So I think Oud Infinite definitely has a shit opening. It definitely has that, and I love it. But I think it's nothing compared to Strangelove. I think Strangelove is harder to wear than Oud Infinite.
Just not even close. I mean, on like Strangelove is almost trivial to wear. It's for me, it's an easygoing like oudy amber, whereas the Oud Infinite is just like.
My issue,
just pure filth.
My issue with the poo.
What about all the lovely orangey blossom bits and all the blossoms at the top of the Oud Infinite as well? There's some really lovely.
That's to me is the tragedy of Oud Infinite, is that everyone gets hung up on the poo smell, and that's all they ever talk about when it comes to Oud Infinite. When in fact the orange blossom is fucking beautiful in that fragrance. So
what I perceive, the problem that I have with the poo at the start, right, is that it's not just full on like really heavy like poo manure. It smells like, right, they actually start using this term. I think it's probably in the bloody dictionary now. But like when like your kind of baby has like a poonami, and like basically you've cleaned up, but it's probably not entirely, and you've used like baby wipes or something that smells like kind of nice. And it's just that slight smell of shit that's actually worse than the full-on smell of shit. Do you know what I mean? Like just that like trace of shit. You're like, oh, like you've not like wiped your ass properly or something. That's the kind of vibe, and that's worse because all the beautiful stuff. But then like later on, like I say, it takes me a few hours to get to really appreciate it and be like, no, that is actually intrinsic to my love of this perfume, and it's like brilliance anyway. Whereas I think probably smelling the raw oud material, I wouldn't get that because it's not a full fleshed out perfume. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but for me, that's actually that like the way it blends into the nice stuff is what for me it's why I said it was a masterpiece in the last one. Is that if you think of them like if you talk about them texturally, like that kind of like. I don't know, almost like frequencies in sound. Yeah. Like they really blend in that middle, and like the texture and the frequency just there's a huge, like, if they're a Venn diagram, they're like bang in that middle. Yeah. Like they overlap so heavily, and for me that's what's so genius about it, is that like they just work together.
I completely
like
agree.
Two things I can't think better.
Yeah, I completely agree with the genius. Yeah, the masterpiece. I'll completely go along with that, and I do think it's like a masterful perfume. I just talk about my own personal like threshold for like enjoyment of the perfume. Like someday I would wear it. I can't think of a day when I'm like, when have I got like 5 hours to be like do you know what I mean? Like, when have I got that amount of time to kind of sort of endure it? But it's I probably do, because that's what this kind of hobby is all about, like challenging yourself to things. So I'm not like completely ruling it out, but it's just it takes a lot of effort to like think about. And if I had like a full bottle of it, like I've got a couple of samples of it somewhere, and that's all I ever will need. And I feel that I'm a bit oversubscribed even at that point. But yeah, like I say, I completely understand where you're coming from, and it fills me with like joy that you love that perfume so much, and I think it's great.
Does anyone know the YouTuber who's I think he's Spanish or something? He may be like I'm not sure he speaks in like Spanish or Portuguese, or like I'm just showing my ignorance. He's from somewhere that speaks Spanish or Portuguese or that sort of language.
So that's all of South America.
Basically, half the world.
Yeah, it's a huge. Yeah, does anyone know that YouTuber?
Yeah, is it called Zhao? Is it Zhao? He's called.
Might be. He does reviews in English and
Portuguese or Spanish.
His other language.
yeah. If it's Zhao, he does, I think.
And he did it anyway. This guy did a review of Oud Infinity, and he put it really well in that, like, there are days where you'll smell it and just no, like you just can't, just not even going to wear it, and just no. And there are other days when you smell it and it's like, yes, today's the day, and I'm going to wear it, and it's just going to fucking own. And like I sort of feel the same about it. Although for me, I mostly smell it and think today's the day.
Well, I love that about any perfume, that it's not always going to be the thing you want to wear, but when you do, it's like, you pick your moment, and then it's brilliant. I love that, and that's part of the reason why we have perfume collections, and we don't just all wear fucking Aventus or fucking Paco Rabanne 1 million or whatever, because this idea of only wearing one perfume all the time, to me, are you all right? Fliss has just sprayed something and gagged, which was quite an amusing response. I don't think I want to know what it is yet, do I? No, she's shaking her head. She can't talk. She's that fucked up by the experience.
This is second half. It's second half.
Okay. Oh, God. I apologise in advance, Carter Weeks Maddox. So anyway... go on. Sorry.
I watched Idiocracy.
Did you?
Week, and in that's a world where everyone would be wearing Paco Rabanne.
Yes. Yeah. Because it's got everything plants need. It's got electrolytes.
Exactly.
Did I recommend that movie? I know I went on and on about it, but it's a fucking superb film. So let's go to James for the big Humperdinck, or whatever we're calling it.
The big Humperdinck.
So, true story. I worked, I still work actually, because we now work for the same company. There was a brief period where we didn't, but we do again now. With the niece of Engelbert Humperdinck, and she said that even though his real name is not Engelbert, they do refer to him as Uncle Engelbert, which I just think is beautiful. Uncle Engelbert.
I thought you were going to call him like Dinky or something, or like
Dinky. Yeah, no, unlikely. Dinky, Uncle Dinks.
I once worked with the granddaughter of who's the bass player for on Lou Reed, Take a Walk on the Wild Side.
Oh wow,
Flowers or something, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was his granddaughter. She was all right.
She was all right. Yeah, she speaks highly of you too, Fliss.
Any famous bass players?
Yeah, she knows all the Coldplay.
Oh, yeah,
we covered this one.
I actually do know a famous bass player.
Do you? Go on.
The one from The Verve.
Oh, yeah.
Is he called Simon?
Johnny Verve.
Simon, he's called.
Simon Verve.
He's actually dead sound. He's really sound.
I think you were going to say he's dead for a second.
No, he's not dead. Same here. No, he's still alive and kicking as far as I know.
Dead sound. Weirdly, there is a bass player. This is a fucking stupid discussion, but there is a professional bass player called Dan Rothschild. So he shares the same name as me, which is quite rare.
That's fun on Google, I'm sure.
Yeah. So there's like me, him, some guy whose email we used to get sent each other's email randomly. He's like a psychiatrist or something, so that made a fucking...
you should have replied.
yeah, I prescribe the following. And some Israeli army captain. So it's a small world. But I've
dangerous.
Yeah. Well,
when Twitter was good, there was a guy called John Lewis who used to reply to all the John Lewis tweets that were sent to him. Like they complained about, he was like 65, a little retired man, and he would always just reply very politely. But he had a huge following for just being really sweet about the fact that he wasn't John Lewis.
Oh, nice.
It was very calming read.
I feel like we've lost our way a little bit here. So
no,
we should be very out of character. Yeah. So James, hit us with the full fandango.
Okay, here we go. Right, let's do this.
How many are there?
There's a lot. Let's just get on with it. So there's basically silver.
He's sick of it before he's even started.
Well, I just feel for you guys. That's all. And
are we doing these in a chronologically correct sequence?
We are.
Please do them in order.
So I might just cherry pick different ones and go forwards and backwards just to fuck with all of you. No. So anyway,
and then before, thereafter.
Creed's Silver Mountain Water, because I think Ben had worn it on the last podcast whenever the fuck that was, like 5 weeks ago or something. And I was like, oh, I'm going to wear that on Monday 3 weeks ago. And I was like, yeah. So I wore that, and I remember him saying, oh, yeah, there was some bullshit, usual Creed bullshit about what's his name wearing it, David Bowie. And I was like, yeah, I like that one. I know it's a bit of a silly perfume, really, but I really like it. It's very sharp and metallic, and I really like it. Tell you what I do really like, I've put heart by this one. The next day I wore Machino Uomo, which is actually one of Jeremy Fragrance's favourites, which he's got pretty good taste.
I've always said you never see James and Jeremy Fragrance in the same room.
That's right, at the same time. You
don't. No evidence that they are not the same person. Sorry, can I just interrupt this already? Because something occurred to me the other day. You described, I think, was it Oud for Greatness? You described as being quite an annoying perfume, I think.
Yeah.
You said, yeah.
Probably.
Well, yeah, so...
sounds about right.
It is. My eldest daughter, had her sort of school prom, like after her GCSEs last week, and she wore a decant, which had come in like the Harrods calendar or something, of Oud for Greatness. And I had to drive her to her mate's house, and I was like, what the fuck perfume are you wearing? It is so obnoxious. And she's like, oh, it's this Oud for Greatness. And she said, everyone always says it smells great. And I heard James's voice in the back of my head go, that is a really fucking annoying perfume. And actually, you are right. It's really annoying. And it's so annoying that I did have a bottle of Hultane, which is basically the PDM version of the same thing, which I just came home and I sold it straight away because it's like, this is really, really fucking annoying. So basically, well done, James.
I don't hate the smell, but it's annoying, isn't it? It's like that thing.
It is annoying. It's exactly the right description. Sorry, I interrupted you, but I needed to let you know that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. So Machino Uomo apparently has those little tiny fucking oranges that aren't really oranges, that if you squeeze them, like little bits of like orange jizz comes out of the peel. What are they called? Like a kumquat.
Like a mock orange.
That's not an orange, is it?
Did you just say orange jizz and then
say the word cum?
That's where it was. That's where I was thinking jizz, kumquat. You know. Anyway. Yeah. So
Jesus Christ.
Those little things. There is a kumquat, isn't it? I'm not going fucking mad here. That's a fruit, isn't it? A tiny little fruit, and
well, really nice. A kumquat is a thing. I mean, I'm not quite sure what the rest of the context is, but I can confirm kumquats exist.
Well, they're supposed to be the citrus note, the top note of Machino Uomo. And while I can say that they're probably not, considering, like, you know, I don't go, that smells like a kumquat. It has a very unique smell to the kind of top notes of it. But it's also really soft and like musky, and it's a really great perfume, and that is such a kind of quite chintzy sort of brand. But they've got some good perfumes. I mean, that is just one that I like it a lot. Anyway, then I wore. Sorry,
just going to interrupt real quick. Sorry, Hermès Le Jardin de Monsieur Lee is a very like kumquat. Sort of forward perfume, I guess. Anyway,
no, that's all right. I bet if it's a Jean-Claude Helena, I bet he's sat around and studied a kumquat, and I bet it smells like a kumquat. But this probably doesn't really. I don't know.
Can we say kumquat again?
No.
Can we all say it?
We can chant
I think if Fliss says it like several times, we'll probably get more patrons.
Yeah, Fliss. Kumquat.
That can be this month's bonus material.
You can just loop it, Ben,
ridiculous.
like 6 million times, and just have it on. Just people listen to it for hours. Anyway, so
Jesus Christ.
Okay,
right.
So then I wore Acqua di Parma Fico di Amalfi, which is a almond fragrance, which you think, no, meh. Almond, yeah, it's not that like ridiculous benzaldehyde cherry kind of. It's a very creamy, accurate kind of almond, like with like citrus. It's nice. I don't overdo it, and there's a time and a place for it, but it's a pretty good soft almond fragrance.
I thought that one was a figgy one, Fico di Amalfi.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Oh shit!
There is a.
Do you know what? I've just written the wrong.
There is one that
Mandorlo di Sicilia.
Mandorlo.
Because I just write a list, and I've got I did have Fico di Amalfi, but I gave it to Jenny, so I just write down. I just go, I'm wearing an Acqua di Parma today. Which one is it? And I've just written that it's not Fico di Amalfi. It was Mandorlo di Sicilia.
But it's interesting because I was actually looking at the Mandorlo because I really want an almond fragrance.
Oh, okay. It's a good one.
It's a good one. Okay, cool.
It's not like marzipan-y, and if you don't want like a really overly gourmand, it's perfect for that whole blue like range of Acqua di Parmas. It's got that like Amalfi Coast, you know, nicety, freshness about it, but it's still creamy and warm and kind of nice at the same time. So, yeah. Then I wore Chanel Egoiste, which we're all very familiar with. Beautiful sandalwood perfume. Then I wore Nicolai Ombre Cashmere, which I've got a love-hate relationship with Pam Nicolai. I think she's a very good perfumer. I think she's very, very good. And she's got a lot of like cool ideas, but I think like just something about them, and I own loads of them, by the way. I own about 6 or 7 of those like perfumes, only small bottles, but still I own too many of them, and a lot of them I turn around and go, why have I got this? Because I probably like some of the fresher, more normal ones, because like her like patchouli one doesn't really smell like patchouli. It's very weird spicy wood kind of perfume. Then there's like that amber one, which I'm talking about here, which is a kind of really strange amber accord. They're very unique like prospects, and I think if you like that brand, they're quite like fusty and kind of old school in their whole approach, but they don't smell like anything from the old, and some of them are quite modern. So just total contradictions there from my descriptions, but the ombre cashmere and some of those just kind of get on my nerves a little bit after wearing them. I'm like, and there's an oud one that I've got, because there's like an incense oud, which they all kind of have this like really complex, like woody, spicy sort of like texture. But they're just, I kind of, so I have some regrets with that brand, but I just wore it anyway, just for the sake of it. And then I wore Robert Piguet Bois Noir, which is a lovely, olibanum, excellent incense, woody incense perfume. And then on the same day, I must have like had a shower or something, because I wore Les Indomptables Escalade and Haiti, which is a lovely... I tried it again because I thought, I've had a shower, right, I'm only wearing it for the evening, and it doesn't really matter that it's not going to last all day, because that perfume really does not last on me, because it's a kind of cologne perfume, and again, not really important. Wonderful vetiver in the opening, and then just kind of fizzles out. But wonderful materials in that perfume, well executed. But just for me, I want a vetiver that's a bit more has a bit more of a longer life, as it were. Then the next day, I was like, I'm on a Les Indomptables kick, right? I'm going to wear Iris Pearl, which is a lovely, fresh, floral kind of greenish sort of iris, and then very smooth, beautiful, pearlescent, hence the name, sort of iris oris kind of accord. Really lovely, but it's very middle of the road. It's not like, oh my god, it's melt my heart, I love it, or it's, oh my god, it's really out there, like Iris Silver Mist or something like that. It's just a good middle of the road, very good materials, well executed iris perfume. I like it a lot, but it's not, it's not blowing me away. Then I wore Santa Maria Novella Melograno, which we've all gone on about on this podcast, which we love.
I keep meaning to buy that, every so often I think, is now the time to waste some money on that one? And I sort of think, I'm sure one will come up for a bargain at some point, but it never does.
I'm sure. Well, maybe it was because I think people buy it and just go, this is a great perfume, I'm just going to wear the whole thing.
I'll keep it.
And it is, just a wonderful, lovely thing. Apparently it's got this pomegranate note, which I now kind of perceive, and I'm like, oh yeah, pomegranate. And I'm like, I didn't before. So I'm just, I don't know how much of that is, because a Melograno is pomegranate, I believe.
Power of suggestion.
Yeah. But I think it kind of is there now. And I'm kind of like, yeah. Anyway. So then I wore Frederic Malle Monsieur. Anyone familiar with that? Very
Monsieur.
Yeah, very heavy patchouli.
Oh, right, yeah. Sorry. I was thinking of the toothpaste one.
No, it's just Monsieur by Bruno Jovanovic.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes.
And it's like, it's a really brutal patchouli. Reminds me of like a Bloody Mary or something. It's got like this weird tomato juice, which would make you think, oh, that's like quite, but it's relentless. It's dead smoky. It's like kind of tarry, like synthetic oud, kind of like almost vibe. It's a brutally rough patchouli, but it's supposed to be that. It's not. It doesn't even smell like remotely of the natural world, shall we say? I'm not going to say synthetic because but it smells like there's kind of a tire fire, maybe like some miles away, and you're kind of maybe drinking a Bloody Mary or something. It's weird. So anyway,
that sounds awful. There's a tire fire some miles away and you're drinking a Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and you're wearing a kind of like quite screechy, maybe like oudy type perfume. Anyway, then I wore Amarud Santal de Indies,
What's that one like? It's one of the few I haven't tried from that range.
It's a kind of boozy. It smells a lot like that one that I really like from. Oh, what's it called? It's got like a kind of African mask. Like the eau de toilette has like an African mask head.
Oh, Luban.
Idol. Yes, that one. It smells quite a lot like that. And again, is it a clone? Is this a clone house? It's a house. Again, I'm saying house. Sorry, I don't really count them as a house. It's a brand. It's a perfume brand by some like American perfume brand that were they were called like Perfumers Workshop or something like that.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and they'd make loads of these kind of different like perfumes and like, they were kind of a bit throwaway, a bit, Demeter-y kind of like vibes of like, we just have these kind of like concepts of things. And then they did this other brand, which was their more luxury kind of brand. And they're quite good. They were in like shops and stuff. And I was like, yeah, okay. They've got a kind of this one and that one, whatever, the usual kind of thing. But they were, one, reasonably affordable and pretty well structured and good, and maybe could bring a little bit of something new to the table. But I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna say they're the greatest like brand in the world. But I quite fancied that one just because of the connection with Idol, which I really like. I don't think it's as good. Just from a point of view, it's not quite as fresh and it's not quite as like old in the sort of the top and kind of mid stuff, but that generally, like, it's almost like a boozy thing. It's not even really sandalwood, but there's sandalwood and sort of cedar in there, and it's a very good perfume. Just it's a great one. It lasts and it's really good. And I got it for a song. I've got a couple of theirs which I got quite cheap. The ones in the white bottles, but particularly there's one called White Hinoki, which I absolutely love. It's really sort of happy, sort of orange and ginger, and sort of white woods kind of thing. It's fucking great. I might dig that one out. What's the other one you've got in the white bottle? Because I know you got that Hinoki one. What was the one you got before that?
Oh God, I can't remember now.
Because I thought those ones in the white bottles
I did have. Yeah, I had Luna Vetiva.
Right.
I had Luna Vetiva and Wet Stone.
Stone, that's
it's
it.
Neither.
Yeah.
Oh, Silver Birch. That's the one I do still have. Silver Birch is really good, actually.
Yeah.
That's it's quite green and sort of sappy.
I thought they were quite a bit more creative than the ones in the black bottles. The ones in the black bottles are like, yeah, we've got a kind of tobacco-y vanille one, we've got whatever one, all these different ones, and then those ones were a bit like, whoa, this is a kind of quite out of left field. And some of those, really quite creative. I certainly remember that Hinoki one being pretty nice.
The Hinoki one's a bit of a darling, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
I think sort of justifiably, really. It's bright, it's fizzy, it's quite durable, it's clean, it's fairly original. It's not sort of super duper mainstream and obvious, but then it's not challenging at all. I don't know. It ticks a lot of very easy to wear boxes. It's the sort of thing that you might well find in a Louis Vuitton range, perhaps. Maybe Louis Vuitton would dial it down a little bit more and dial down the woods a bit more and make it just a little bit blander. But it's good.
Mm-hmm. Then I wore Amouage Lyric Man because that is just a joyous perfume. I had a wonderful experience wearing it, and I often do. I just have this kind of like trail like that I just leave around behind me. It's just a wonderful, like really clean kind of soapy rose or olibanum. It's just a really special perfume. And I wore it because it was Elliot's Sports Day. And I wore it just because I thought, I want to wear something a bit like nice today. And I was wearing like a white shirt, and it was like you get to go to the school in the morning and all that kind of stuff. So it was a really nice day. And I just have just really fond memories of that. So anyway, then I wore Kenzo Jungle the next day, Kenzo Jungle because I've kind of been a bit maybe a little bit critical of Olivier Cresp in recent times. And I don't know if he runs his social media. I don't think he does. But I think, did he give me like an RC comment about some kind of review where I was just like, acro is shit. This is why, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm sure he like commented or something happened.
It's probably that same dickhead who has
pretends to be, what's his name,
It wasn't, who was it he pretends to be? It wasn't Quentin Beach, it's one of the other ones.
One of those, yeah. But anyway, Cresp, and actually, it wasn't totally slagging off acro, and we'll come to that in a minute. But I love Kenzo Jungle because it's got, speaking of like gingery notes, it's got a slight bit of like gingery thing, but it's probably the most cardamom forward like perfume that I can think of. But it doesn't do that kind of thing where you've got a really dry, ISO-y super and like cardamom, and it just gets really, or like ionones or something that makes it really dry and kind of papery, and like it's got loads of like creamy sort of like roundness to it, and this cardamom that's like, it has all those qualities, but it's a wonderful perfume. And he is a master of like just gentle spice. And there's a lot of people who are, Jean-Claude Elena, loads of other people who just give this like little spice edge to something, and they do a really good job of it. I'd say what's his face as well, Olivier Polge as well is like good at that. But I love Kenzo Jungle Hom, and I thought I loved the women's one as well, or the elephant one, l'elephant, is it called, or l'elephant, something like that.
Oh, the Jungle Elephant is in my top 10. Wow. It's phenomenal. I
think it's too feminine.
It's Dominic Ripion. It's Dominic. For you, yeah. I mean, I just think it's, especially for the price point. It is, for me. It's Christmas in a bottle.
Yeah.
It just really reminds me of that super spicy, creamy, delicious, sort of semi-gourmand without being a cake.
It's very. I mean, have you tried the men's one?
No, I haven't.
You should because it's very toned down, but you can see how they could be like paired. You know what I mean? Even though there's barely much sort of floral stuff going on in that one. And I do. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, I like it because I own the women's one. But it's a bit too much for me, I think. And I kind of find it a bit overwhelming. But it's a great perfume. I mean, it's a classic, isn't it? So anyway, then I wore by Kilian Water Calligraphy. Because I think we were maybe slagging off Kilian, or I was in my own like head thinking about the last conversation.
Seems very, very out of character.
No, I think that was what prompted it, because I thought about we were talking about Kilian, or a lot of you've got kind of like, oh, I've got a Kilian, but like Fliss was saying about like that skull case.
Yeah, I've got one.
No, and exactly, a lot of those perfumes, and my whole relationship with By Kilian, just to give you a brief overview of that, was like when that brand first came out, I was like, oh, I'm quite interested in this because there's the link with the booze and the Hennessy and the and I liked the fact that it was packaging that was like luxury and stuff, but it was kind of sustainable in that if you didn't want to buy, I mean, I didn't even buy a full perfume with a bottle. I just bought a refill of the one that I liked, which is like just because I wanted the little atomizer, the little magnetic atomizer thing, because I thought it was a beautiful object, and the bottles are beautiful and fair enough, and you buy the refills, and I think and all the packaging is beautiful, right? It really is nice, and if you value that, then it's a good brand in that case. And the perfumes aren't outrageously expensive if you factor that in. But how much does packaging really mean to me? Not enough to have ever bought one in a bottle and that. So anyway, I got this as like a little travel set thing, and it came with 3 perfumes, which might well be dismissed as just fluff of like floral, watery shit. But the Water Calligraphy is a kind of bamboo, fresh, floral thing, perfect for the summer, really nice, and just a nice perfume. Probably not worth the the price tag, but that's in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? Or the nose. So anyway, I enjoyed wearing it. Slightly like cucumbery notes without being annoying. Really good. Kind of, reminds me of a sort of lily pond kind of, just great perfume. Then
I wore. Sorry,
go
I
on.
was just going to chuck in. I wore Kilian Liaison Dangerous this week, actually.
Oh yeah.
I didn't mention it at the start because I think I've mentioned it on podcasts before, but I love it. I think it's really good. It's one of my. I sort of seem to always fall back on it quite frequently, actually, and I'd probably put it up as like one of my like kind of not favourites of all time, but I suppose it sort of would be. Do you know, like almost like an old reliable or something? I don't know.
Old faithful, eh?
Yeah.
I did actually, because I wasn't on like a by Kilian kick or anything, but I did smell another Kilian this week, just because I picked it up in a shop and was like, it's called Apple Brandy on the Rocks, which I tried, and I was like, superficially, I was like, I tried the Apple Brandy one when it came out. I was like, it smells kind of like boozy sort of apple. Not really interested in that, but I didn't hate it or anything. But then this one does have a slight like freshness. I don't know if I'm just like, again, imagining that, but I kind of got that a little bit more. And then as it dried down, I just kind of see how like fragile and just like this kind of massive like woody boozy sort of notes that like has become their kind of signature of stuff now. You know, they did Angel Share, they did all these kind of things, and they're a little bit, they don't have enough like substance for me. They're kind of they're playing to a certain crowd that I'm not like part of. I don't really get it. I don't hate it. I quite like it, but you know, I'm not mad about it. You know what I mean?
Were they the bottles that is the Apple Brandy on the Rocks? It comes in the bottle that looks like a crystal glass.
Yeah, that's right, like a tumbler. Yeah.
Yeah, they all sort of flopped, didn't they? That whole sort of collection didn't.
I think they're
didn't
basically
pull up trees.
Aren't they mostly retreads of their previous releases, but just with a sort of more fucking
suffix.
cologne format? Yeah.
Yeah. I think so.
I don't think it's working out for them.
No.
Cool. Can I just ask, you know, no pressure, but how many more have we got?
Fucking loads, mate. So just sit back and trap. No. One.
Just let it happen.
8. So I'm trying to get through them as quickly as possible. I'm sorry. So then Joe Malone, Earl Grey and Cucumber. Cucumber's horrible in fragrances. It's not in this. It's really nice. Try it. It's great. It smells of smoky Earl Grey tea as well. That's a good Joe Malone. So stop slagging Joe Malone off. Fuck off for that as well. So anyway, then Perfumo di Firenze, Terra Rosa. Do you know that one?
No.
So it's really good. It's really good.
No, you wouldn't, would you? You wouldn't, would you? No, you wouldn't know that one because I'm better at smelling perfume than you.
I was, you know. Anyway, right. So Terra Rosa is like red earth. Is that what it means?
Red earth,
Something
yeah. Red ground.
Yeah, and it is that. I mean, it's a vetiver kind of, but like fresh with sort of orange. Imagine like a totally reimagined, like nothing like Terre d'Hermès, but always when you talk about vetiver and orange, you're going to think, oh yeah, it's Terre d'Hermès. But this is a much fresher, and it's really like, it almost goes to like a bit like Timbuktu-y. It's very, it's one of the best. I mean, it's totally unsung, like no one really knows about it. But it's a brilliant fragrance from a great brand, who I don't think exist anymore. I'm not sure. There's confusion because they've kind of rebranded. They've still got the same name, or they might be a different, because saying a perfume from Florence is a bit like, well, there's fucking loads of perfume. Do you know what I mean? There's loads of them, so that's kind of quite a common name to go for. Anyway, it's brilliant. If you can find it for cheap, which you probably can't anymore because it's been hyped by knobheads like me, so unlucky. Basically now, Amouage Reflection 45. Do you know why I wore that, Dan?
I wore that because of Dan as well.
Is that because I posted a picture of it?
Yeah.
Is it because did I influence you with my Instagram?
We're so pathetic. And so like, just haven't got our own fucking, you know.
no autonomy, no fucking critical faculties of your own. You just do what you're told by the Grand Panjandrum over here. Yep.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I thought your picture of it was lovely, and you're very reflections. You know, generally you're a bit like either going, it took me fucking ages to do this, or there's always a reflection because of that like surface that you use anyway, isn't there? So like the fact that the bottle was just like all this opalescent fucking like mad thing of like, what do they call that? Like that petrol-y kind of effect. What is that like?
Yeah. I know what you mean. Well, I was going to say pearlescent, but that's probably not what you meant, is it?
No.
I wonder what you do call that.
What is that fucking word? I used to know what that word was.
You move on. I'll look it up.
You just get the fuck on.
I think we're being hurried along by Fliss.
We talked about it at great length. It's a wonderful Fougere fragrance, really good in that 45 concentration, and I just think it's fantastic. So yeah, I really enjoyed wearing that. Loads of like great floral stuff going on as well. Anyway, then I wore Hermes Bellamy Vetiver, fantastic kind of incense, woody, amazing fragrance with added vetiver. Then I wore Acro Haze, and anyone from the Wirral will know Haze there, you know that. Right, that's
that's the one that smells of weed, is it?
Yeah, apparently so. But do you know what? It fucking doesn't.
It doesn't really.
Right, and I'm somebody who's banged on about this like cannabis accords and blah blah blah, and they don't really smell like whatever. But a lot of them actually do, and they've got that like vegetative kind of like spicy hash sort of like smell. And you're like, yeah, okay, I get that, but like there's again, cannabis is quite a broad church anyway, in like smells and stuff, but I've never had one that captures it, and this one certainly does not, right? In any way. I don't know where he's coming from with this, but it's quite a nice perfume. And that's the reason why that I think maybe not smelling like cannabis is quite a good idea, because, you can take inspiration from it, but as long as you still smell like quite a soft, pleasant, nice perfume, it does have green herbal elements, but it's not as horrible as some of those ones from like Bois 1920 or a lot of those like crappy brands that were like, let's jump on the bandwagon and basically make exactly the same fragrance, which was like, yeah, it's that incensey kind of earthy sort of accord with like green kind of top. Yeah, we understand that kind of smells a bit like cannabis, but like not really. It's not even that. So I kind of take my hat off to like, yeah, it does smell like that, but it doesn't smell like haze or like, cannabis flowers or anything remotely kind of in that realm, but it's still quite a nice perfume. So anyway, then I wore Affinescence Queer Kukama, which we've all gone on about. It was a really hot day, not the most appropriate fragrance for that, or is it? Because you want something big and bad and heavy, and that was exactly what that is. Just wonderful. That is one of my favourite perfumes ever. It's just fantastic. It's not even that complex. There's not even that much to it. It's just really good materials, really thick with like, sandalwood and this kind of leather and like cedar and stuff like that, but just in probably like the best, like textural kind of thick. It's just wonderful. Then I wore Voronoi, which apparently is a Russian brand, and they come in like aluminium kind of flasks. Voronoi Woods in Fog, which I actually think Ben would really like this fragrance.
Voronoi, a Russian brand, making a perfume called Woods in Fog.
In Fog, yeah. And it's
that
kind of
sounds like it's quite headbanger, I reckon.
It's a kind of, it's supposed to be a camphorous, patchouli, really earthy, patchouli, wet, damp earth kind of jasmine kind of accord thing. But it is that, but it's quite mellow. It's not as like, as you're expecting. And it kind of smells like a sort of, all their stuff smells like synthetic oud, right? So they all smell like that kind of synthy oud thing. But then it has vanilla, right? Which normally I would go, you're putting fucking vanilla in something where it's just, you're doing it for the sake of it because you don't want to do another, a boring, let's just make a camphorous, perfume. So you've put vanilla with it, which doesn't really go. But in a weird way, it kind of does. And it kind of works to soften it all and do whatever. I don't particularly love it, but it kind of reminded me of something that Dan sent that Ben really liked. And it was a kind of incense with vanilla. Do you remember what that perfume was? I think you've bought it since, Ben. You kind of talk about it quite a bit, but I can't remember what it's called. Was it like those really expensive ones in those bottles that kind of look like a flowing dress or something? What was that brand? They're like a British brand.
Oh, Elegante.
Yeah. Elegantes. It was one of those. I think one of those anyway. Or might not have been. No.
He looks completely blank.
Yeah, no,
I think you might be on about Royal Crown.
Crown.
That's the one.
Imperator.
Royal Crown Imperator. Imagine that, but instead of like incense, it's more of a false, synthetic oud, patchouli, earthy, damp thing, but with that vanilla kind of softening. I think you might quite like it. I think you might.
I've never smelled it from the brand, but I know the brand. The bottles are awesome. They all look like kind of a bit weird, Lovecrafty, kind of strange, sort of horror almost. Like the little kind of images on the front, don't they? But yeah, no, and they're all called things like I don't know, like Lost in the Woods or something like that, aren't they? Like weird shit. But yeah, I've never smelled anything by them. But
worth a sniff, and they're quite cheap as well. And so they should be really. Then I wore Dior Homme 2012, which I'm wearing today. There you go.
Fuck me. Are we up to date?
We are. Sorry about that, everyone.
Well,
you must never apologise. You have to be royal about it. Never apologise. Never explain.
That's true. That's true. Guarded and charming.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like exhausted after that, and I may need to go and lie down for a while.
But not before you've heard my list of thesaurus about the bottle.
Oh God, go on.
So you could have said pearlescent, oil slick, prismatic, rainbow light,
iridescent.
That's it.
Iridescent.
Multicoloured, lustrous, psychedelic, nacrous, kaleidoscopic.
It was iridescent.
Well, but kaleidoscopic would have been nice as well. I would have liked it if someone said that.
Well, I shall make a point of saying it ad nauseum. Kaleidoscopic or kumquat.
Kumquat. Kaleidoscopic kumquat.
Oh, there we go.
There's the
loop. Oh my God.
That's one for the bank.
That's just. I don't know. I've come over all funny, Fliss. Right. I'm gonna go.
Oh, do we need a break?
Yes, I'm gonna go and wank myself senseless in the break. Excuse me. Right. So that was an absolute hoot. Let's just fucking try and I don't know, get through the next 5 minutes. Have a short break, a cold shower, and return for part 2 of Les Oderants. Stick with us. Hello and welcome back to Les Oderants, home of kumquats, quinces and dangleberries. I've been working on that one in the break. I think I delivered it with aplomb, but we will frequently cry in the manner of fucking some sort of 80s like TV show. We will frequently cry at random intervals. Kumquat. Just to spice things up a little. This week, actually, I'm worried I may have sustained a head injury at some point because I seem to just be talking absolute fucking bollocks now. But this week we are talking about the perfumes created by a chap called Carter Weeks Maddox, a chap whom I know relatively little about. So, James, why don't you tell us a bit about Carter Weeks Maddox, not to be confused with Carter the Unstoppable Sex Machine
from the early 90s. I remember those. Yeah. Yeah, so Carter, who maybe also is an unstoppable sex machine, I don't know. He is a gentleman that I met, became acquainted with on Instagram. He's a lovely fella. He does lots of perfume-related things, and likes a lot of like art and like interesting stuff. And he is originally from Texas, and I think he was from quite a sort of traditionally Texan kind of hunting, fishing, one of those kind of like southern sort of like families. But he's quite a flamboyant gay man, and I think that was kind of like he I get the impression he sort of grew up in a kind of place that wasn't really like the norm, as maybe a lot of people did, and that kind of like he lives in Florida now as well, which is kind of again quite a I won't say anything about Florida, but we all know the score. And he basically like a lot of that I think is like informs his kind of, certainly the conversations we've had. I don't really know what I'm trying to say here, but a lot of his stuff is about like very personal, so life experiences and also artwork and things that have influenced him, not necessarily in a perfume sense, but just have shaped his character. And that's I think
he comes across on his Insta as very cerebral, and when I had a little look, he's got like an MA in critical theory.
Yes.
And his thesis is on the manifestations of the chronotype within women's post-war life writing.
Yes.
Which is like, all right, babes, that's pretty impressive. All right, cool.
Yeah. So, like I say, it just like fascinates me, and he's got a rare sense of slightly not taking himself too seriously, but also very sort of understanding. And he's like obviously like fiercely intelligent, and to the point where he's kind of like the stuff that he references. It might as well be on a kind of different planet, frankly, sometimes, because I'm just like, right, okay, maybe I should know about that. But I don't. But we still like relate and can get on. And do you know what I mean? He's not like, he's somebody that I like consider, a friend and everything.
He sounds like a lovely fella.
Yeah.
Right. So, good. Okay, so should we chop up some of his perfumes?
Yeah, let's slag him off now.
Which I believe he said...
Enough of the nicety.
He's certainly an unstoppable perfume machine, because we got fucking loads of samples here.
The unstoppable perfume machine. Brilliant. Well done. I believe... Did he get in touch with you, Fliss, and let you know that he doesn't care if we hate them, as long as we hate them with
Basically, yes, that's what he said. He said, say what you like, but, give it some welly. I don't think he said it. That sounds like something I would say. But yeah, that was the equivalent of it.
Say, give it some welly.
I can't imagine too many Americans saying, give it some welly.
I'm just looking it up now. But yeah, he basically, he gave us full reign to go for it. Yeah.
I would expect nothing less. Excellent. So where do we start? Do we want to pick something that people enjoyed?
Yes.
Well, hopefully there is something that people enjoyed. There was a bit of a pause
I was just looking up, and he said, yes, actually. Absolutely love the pod. If you hate them, at least you can loathe them passionately. So I was like, brilliant, yes.
Yes, we're all about that. Okay, where do you want to start?
I would like to start with Nanas.
Oh, lovely.
Nanas. Yeah, or Nanas. Nanas.
It's definitely Nanas, isn't it?
It's Nanas. This, I really, really like this. It's sweet and fruity and musky and creamy and feminine, and the dry down is very fuzzy. And this is definitely something that I could see myself wearing.
Do we know what the brief was for Nanas?
So I think he was working with an artist. Let's just double check. Here we go. So he was working with a lady called Alyssa, who wrote a book called Coming to My Senses, about how she learnt to love perfume. And I've actually got it, actually. It's a beautiful book. And he read the book, and then he eventually met Alyssa in real life. And she sent him a bottle of a vintage bottle of some perfume that she adored. And he began to experiment around it, I believe. And then he also there was some artistic experiment as well, I understand. It says here on the website, I told her about an experimental method of composing formulas that I'd developed, which mimicked how Nikki for a time shot at canvases loaded with sacks of pigment with a gun to create violent and cathartic paintings. And then I think there was some challenge issued around taking inspiration from this artist Nikki de Saint-Phal, but also at the same time also working with Alyssa. And this is what they came up with, I think. And it's nana in French. Nanas or nanas is slang for sassy, and it's it's a lot of. But it says he's got a molecule that's very banana candy in it. It's very liang heavy. There's a lot of champaca flower in it.
Yeah.
It's lactonic. It's musky. There's a bit of shiso leaf in there.
So when I first sprayed it, I didn't even look at the name. I just sort of sprayed it on a strip, and I just thought, oh, smells like those banana sweets.
Yeah.
And
the penny sweets, right? Like the foamy bananas.
Exactly. The floaty banana jobs. Yeah. I assume they have those in America. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh, nanas. Right, surely that's like bananas. Or maybe it's nanas. Maybe it's like about an old woman. No, I just kind of missed the point entirely, it seems. But anyway, I actually thought it was very enjoyable. It was... I think you hit the word feminine somewhere in there when you described it, and I would totally agree with that. I would never wear this. It's like, have you met me? I am definitely not wearing this, but it's a lovely perfume and really very enjoyable.
I find the dry down as well. I find it that big banana-y hit at the top, but then I find the dry down after a couple of hours is very floaty and fuzzy and musky, and I enjoyed. It was the one I wore today actually, and I really enjoyed the progression of it.
I put it on my skin last night, this one, so I kind of got some of the later sort of dry down experience, and it does. I mean, the isoamyl acetate, which is the banana molecule, if you like, that everybody knows. And the thing is, I think probably from a technical point of view, he's thought, right, okay, that is so, quintessentially a banana thing. If you're ever going to create a banana, you need, frankly, you need that in there. But there is this kind of banana-y like thing to ylang, right? And there is no surprise to me. Again, this smells more of ylang to me, and it's the way that it's quite delicate, right? Because he hasn't just gone, oh, let's make this over the top ridiculous banana flump thing. I think there's like consideration. There's a bit of what you might. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I like the word flump as well.
Shield, isn't it? Spitting all over my mic. No,
flump.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, I can like say I'm not.
Kumquat.
It's like that lion face, lemon face movie.
What the fuck?
We can all have our own little
Line
one
face.
that we do.
Lemon face.
So anyway, I like that there's a kind
kumquats.
there is all that like lactonic, like creaminess and a sort of almost like powdery kind of thing. And it is a playful perfume. It's not like, there's nothing like too serious in there, but there is definitely like, it's not as ridiculous as it could be. It's not like
there's a little bit more heft than you would expect, and it really surprised me because I was also wearing today, purely by chance, I Love YY by Vogue.
Oh yeah.
And they're not the same, but they have a lot of similar notes, and it's a very similar wear. The Nanas is much lighter and brighter, and the Vogue is much denser and slightly thicker, but the notes in terms of that banana yang and everything, and the way it dries down, that musky dry down, is really similar. And actually, wearing them both, I was like, it's really interesting to make that link between those two indie perfumers playing with yang in that way.
Yeah. I think that's the thing.
Right, it's enough of this shit. Right, it's enough of this shit.
What? Enough of this shit. This smells horrible.
Oh no!
It smells like banana custard, and I think it's really fun, and I do think it's a really fun perfume. But to me, it smells too milky. There's something sort of milky and creamy, and it's too much. And in my notes, I put bit sicky.
Check out Mr. Funbags over here.
It's just enough of your like loving for that one.
Fuck this, it's horrible. Custard.
No, but it is really fun. It is a fun perfume, and it's like, in a way, like I don't hate it. It is really fun, and it's the sort of thing you spray and you think, oh, that's like it makes you smile, but at the same time, it's banana custard and it's all creamy and milky and not for me. Not for me.
What is for you then, Ben?
Yeah.
All right.
Ben.
So
you kumquat.
Buen Camino, the Extrait de Parfum version.
Oh, are there multi-versions?
Fuck me, this is brilliant. This, for me, is really, really, really brilliant. I loved it, every bit of it. I think it might be the one you mentioned about tickling your nose and making you sneeze, because this is really spicy and peppery, and you sniff it at first, and in my notes I put it like makes my nose tickle, but I love it. It smells like when you walk into, I know the brief for this is quite long-winded and something about feet and all that, but it reminds me something like that. But it reminds me, and if he's listening right now, Carter Weeks Maddox is probably wanting to kill me for making it sound so base. But it smells to me like a you get those like Chinese supermarkets or those like just smells like that, and I fucking love it.
Sort of Szechuan spiciness.
Yeah,
wow.
and I absolutely love it. It's brilliant. This for me is just like, I fucking love it. I smelt it and I was all over it from day one. It's brilliant.
Well, that's enough of that shit. I think you're right. I think it's really good. It was very peppery.
I didn't expect that, I'll be honest. I thought you guys were going to go...
No, So, I mean, look, if I'm honest, none of the ones that I've tried so far have made me go, yes, I must have this in my collection, right? Not a one of them, but they're at least fucking good perfumes, right? And I think, or at least some of them are. And I think this one's really good. But I found myself recently, there's an increasing list of notes that I don't get along with so well. And I find things that are too peppery can just be a little bit grating for me. And so whilst I can sort of enjoy the perfumery, I wouldn't wear it because I don't wear anything too pepper heavy because it just...
And this really is that,
my
isn't
fucking
it?
head in. Oh, yeah. And I think you nailed it with Old Chinese Supermarket. It's got that sort of Szechuan peppery... Amouage used to use a sort of Sichuan pepper sort of note in quite a lot of stuff. Some of the weirder Opus... is it Opus?
Yeah,
ones?
the library.
No, the library ones, yeah. Some of those were quite weird and out there, and they used that a lot, and it has that sort of thing going on. But you mentioned the brief was something to do with the feet.
It's something to
what?
Sorry, Fliss, you can probably tell it better.
No, you probably can actually.
Well, this is one that I am really familiar with because I tried. I think he sent me like a pre-release one maybe, and he sent me the one when it came out, and then I've just smelled this one now, and I'll tell you now, the original different formulas, it's not as peppery in the opening. Again, just from memory, I'm saying peppery. That's kind of sort of crudely what it is, but there's like a camphor and there's loads of lavender. So just the brief, right? So basically, he did this 600-mile long pilgrimage. It's like a walk through like Spain and does it go through France as well? I don't know. It's like a.
It's called the Camino de Santiago.
There you go.
De Compostela, and I actually had a friend who did it last year, and wow. It's full on. Yeah. It's a full on pilgrimage walk. But by the time he'd finished, he'd fractured his feet.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you meant your mate. It's like, did you?
No. So this is when Carter did it.
Yeah.
He shattered the bones in his feet, and he'd got blood poisoning. And
what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the fuck? This sounds like a terrible inspiration for perfume.
So he had blood poisoning, and he was like tripping and stuff, and he literally had like a camelback with like opium in or something. Like not the perfume, like actual fucking. He was getting smacked off his tits, and basically. It was like, imagine doing like a pilgrimage and also being in the heat.
Smacked off your tits.
And like it's imbibing the kind of culture and taking in all the lavender and the fucking oranges and everything that was there. And his feet were literally like rotting off his body. It's a proper like visceral fucking inspiration for a perfume. And I just think like this is wonderful. And it just smells like, I mean, you've got to wear this one. I've got to just say, you've got to.
I don't understand how that gets to fucking Chinese supermarket. I mean, in terms
well, you know, the brief makes me laugh because when I say Chinese supermarket, it reminds me of that, but it actually is almost bang on these brand of Taiwanese dried packet ramen that I used to eat when I was at university. But they are. It's bang on. It's perfect for that. So it might be about fractured feet and pilgrimages, but to me, it's always going to be.
Well, do you get
ramen.
Like an antiseptic kind of bandagey medicinal thing from it? Yeah. So it's basically the bandage wraps, the antiseptic, the infection, the dried Iberian lavender, immortelle, hot asphalt, dust, sweat, grime, Tarta de Santiago, which is an almond cake scented with spiced oranges, which is probably where some of the spicy kind of star anise or whatever is coming from, and lemon, and served with espresso. So I don't know if there's a kind of coffee note. So
I get a bit more of that with the EDP version. The EDP version is a little sweeter. It's not as spicy. I prefer the extract version because to me it's drier. But the EDP version does lean a little bit more sort of
Have
sweet.
We got the EDP as well?
Somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, we've got both. And I think that after the initial spray for me, all of those very, very spicy, almost sneezing spices begin to sort of like drop away. And now it's smelling a lot more. It still smells antiseptic, but I'm getting more of the oranges. I'm getting more of the fruitiness, potentially the almonds.
Mm-hmm.
There's more.
It's wonderful.
There's a big progression.
Yeah.
Again, I think.
So when you said bandages and stuff and antiseptic, I can sort of get that now with I mean, I worry that that's like the power of suggestion, right? Or maybe it's not. He writes a brief, he interprets it, you read the brief and you smell it and you go, and that's fine. You're allowed to read and then sort of revisit, and that makes sense. But you know what this reminds me slightly of? was that what's that perfume magazine one?
Nez.
A couple of you got super fucking excited. Nez, yeah, you got super excited about that peppery Nez one.
Adore 'em.
And I thought that was fucking bullshit. That's it, Nez, adore 'em. Nez, fuck off 'em, more like. It reminds me of that. Quite a lot.
Well, that's interesting because then there's that kind of a religious link, isn't there, between the frankincense of the church and the pilgrimage walk from church to church in through Spain. Very interesting.
It's just so brilliant. I just sprayed it again on my skin, and it's fucking brilliant. Loved it. Yeah,
you love it.
Okay, well, that is a solid fucking review. Can we jump to the other brand?
Yeah.
Just explain what's the difference between these two brands then. So the main one is Chronotope, and that is all Carter. Correct. All the time. And then this other brand is what? Something he's developed for someone else?
I don't know who the someone else is particularly, but I know that these exist. That is about it. And that you can get them from Senselier, and also that Carter has sort of taken the lead because he knows how to produce a perfume, make it, and put it into a package. So clearly he's doing all that side of it for the person. But I think the person wants more. I mean, they're very. Just look at the names.
Conceptual.
Of them. I mean, they're very like. Yeah, but they're. I mean, his are very conceptual, but his are very like, this is my concept. You're stepping into my realm. Whereas this is more like, oh, I kind of maybe understand what a Champagne House Harvest is, or I kind of get what a Virginia tobacco barn is, or I kind of know what an English shoe factory. They're quite a lot more literal in the concept. They're a bit more. You'd probably say like high concept, like you can explain them very quickly in like a snappy thing. Do you know what I mean?
But they're less personal, aren't they? So everything else is like his idiosyncratic sort of, hey, this was about the time I did this dead long walk and my feet got sore. Not to sort of be overly reductive, but that's his personal experience. These are nothing to do with his, well, maybe they are his experience of what a fucking tobacco barn smells like, but it's a sort of objective thing that everybody can understand. You don't have to have, you don't have to fucking read the brief to understand what he's going for here.
You read the title, you smell the perfume, you go, oh
yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah. So maybe. I mean, I thought these were all really good, by the way, because I think they all very effectively deliver on the brief, and I guess that's the challenge with more conceptually named and idiosyncratic briefs, is that it's harder for an outsider to immediately determine whether or not they meet the brief. But the brief is in the fucking name, as you say, Ben, and I think they all meet that brief brilliantly. The English shoe factory one, that I sprayed it. I was like, yep, that smells like a brand new pair of Lokes straight away. This is brand new Lokes. Lovely job. Although it does settle into something a lot. I mean, it's still leathery. It's a lot less shoe factory as it dries down. It becomes more
sports shop. So you get sports shop.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what? That's a really interesting one.
Because in the initial sprays for me, you can really get that astringent smell of almost like the glue or the polish and all of that stuff. It's not just leather. There's a sharpness. Yeah, there's a sharpness to it where I think in terms of like if it was just English shoe or English shoe shop, it would be a different smell. But it's the factory bit. You can smell that. I know that sounds really strange, but you can smell the factory.
I think the opening is stunning. Like, it is stunning. Like, a lot of people do leather accords and they're either really boring, they're either a generalized kind of IBQ, we'll stick this in, we'll kind of round it with a little bit of this, or we'll use suederol, or we'll do... This is like he's actually crafted a really good leather accord that's not just about leather, to be honest. yes, it does smell like that, like new pair of shoes, but there is something, the approach to this, he's approached it from a completely different angle to what I know when people go, here's my interpretation of the leather perfume. I'm like, yeah, this is the same 3 or 4 different ways of achieving leather that everyone's doing that I just don't get from this at all. It seems like it's just a completely new way of kind of roundabout getting to a similar place, but I think it's much better, to be honest. It's one of, I mean, I don't even know, like, as much as I love, right, just to give an overview, right, as much as I love his own perfumes from Chronotope, his own brand, these 3 really stuck with me because they're like, again, the concepts are a bit more mundane, if you like, than his, which are a lot more interesting to me. All that stuff about, give me more of that blurb. I like all that shit because it's coming from, a real place. It's not, oh, this is my brand and I'm trying to just embellish it with any old crap to like make it more interesting. It's not fucking Floor IQ or any of that bullshit. It's like, it's real. And this is like not even that. This is almost the total opposite of that, as we've mentioned. That it's very literal, it's very this. But the actual perfumes themselves, I really think they're like, all 3 of them are really good. Like really good. And that's not to take away from his own stuff. His own stuff is so, like, there's so much going on in it. And there's so many like disparate kind of ideas or like influences coming together into those that they're kind of hard to wrap your head around, whereas these are much more accessible, like almost instantly. And it's great that the same perfumer has both those things in his locker. Do you know what I mean? Like, it really is. And I'm not one to be overly impressed, and yeah, you can say, oh yeah, you fucking soft soaping your mate here and stuff like that, but I'm really, I really find it impressive because there's a lot of indie perfumers that I really respect who are really good and all that stuff. But he definitely has a gift for like bringing something to the table that you've not smelled, and that's all that it's about. You know what I mean? It's about a degree of kind of professionalism to get to a point where you've got a perfume that's not just any old shite, and you're not just trying to do things for the sake of it. There's a definite goal to what he's trying to do, and as far as that leather one is concerned, it's changed. It's not even really in the realms of leather anymore to me. I mean, it still is, but I can't even. I'm a bit overwhelmed by that, to be honest. I need to put it down. And then, I mean, have you said everything you want to say about the leather one, or?
I think so.
As everybody.
Yeah, I think
Sorry,
so.
I don't mean to move us on without.
Yeah, I liked it, but it's, I think we've said it. It smelled to me. Say at first, I was like, "Oh yeah, English shoe factory," but as went on, it reminded me more of a sports equipment shop, which probably are fairly similar. But yeah, no, I liked it a lot. It also reminded me a little bit of 4160 Tuesdays. I can't remember which one it is. Black Coffee or something like that. Black Velvet Cafe.
Oh, that one.
Reminded me a little bit of that. There was the leather accord in it, sort of very hard, harsh, quite strong. Great though. Liked it a lot. Anyway.
So
where do you want to go next, Ben? James, you pick one.
I'll pick this one because my other half very kindly actually bought me a bottle of this, so I have a full bottle of this. I was saying, I'm scratching around for my samples. I forgot that these were like part of the. Forgot that they were part of the. Sorry, I dropped my sample. Part of the sample set, and very kindly she heard me going on about this or saw a post or something. She didn't really read my post. Because why would you? But anyway, she then for my birthday got me a bottle of it, which was very kind, and she spoke to Carter.
So this is Champagne House Harvest, right?
Yeah, Champagne House Harvest, which was my favourite one. Weirdly,
I fucking love it.
Do you love it?
I fucking love it. It's really good.
What a great perfume.
I thought that was brilliant.
Wonderful.
Did anyone feel though, since so far we're 3 out of 4 that loved it, did anyone feel they got like callbacks to Sombra, the Champagne Accord in Sombra?
No.
It's definitely there, but obviously this is so much nicer. They're not even related perfumes, but they both have Champagne Accords, and they do. You can smell it, like. But this is so much better.
So there's is it Dries van Noten for Frederick Maal? there's a sort of champagne-y type accord in that, but it doesn't work for me at all for some reason. Whereas this manages to have in the mouth, it comes off like dried snot. In this, it sort of, it has a fresh sort of rosy like fizz to it, which I really really like,
and like shimmery.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good word.
Say it, Fliss.
Yeah. Kumquat.
No, I think what is going on here, right? It's green for a start, right? And it's got that like fresh grape. Well, what it is, right? There's material cognac, right? Green cognac, which is a natural material. And have we done green cognac? I'll send you all some green cognac, right? Because immediately you smell it and it smells effervescent. It smells like bubbles, smells like champagne, right? And it's definitely in this perfume, right? And I think I remember speaking to him about it and saying, I love that fucking perfume. What a great perfume you've done there. And I've always wanted somebody to use that green cognac material, because as soon as you smell it, you're like, it smells like literally like sniffing a champagne flute, and you get all that like bubbly kind of thing from it. But this has other stuff to it, right? So I'd say this is a kind of, excuse me, like a green floral, almost like a like Lys Mediterranean or something like that kind of like, it's got a floral accord to it, because the green cognac doesn't stand up on its own. You can't just make a champagne perfume, right? But this definitely captures that. And then there's even stuff in the base, because I have worn it obviously because I've got a bottle of it, and I can't really remember, but I remember it changing and being like, oh wow, it's kind of this other thing now, and it has got a little bit more heft, and it doesn't do lightweight kind of perfumes. You think you might be tricked into thinking that some of the Chronotope ones are a bit lightweight and a bit throwaway, but wear them for a day and you go, oh shit, there's like stuff going on in the base that I didn't even know. Like there's one of his other ones that he released with the Buen Camino has like this celery note, and he was like, oh, I'm really glad you picked up on that. It's like, almost smells like celery salt, like kind of really intense celery smell, which a lot of people don't like actually, but I found really just intriguing. I can't remember which one that's in, but and then he's got another one called Spite, which is like a kind of violet rose leather kind of perfume, which is very much a kind of nod to Jermaine Cellier and all that kind of stuff. And that's a brilliant perfume as well. We haven't got it, sorry to go on about what we haven't got. But I just mean, in the context of that and smelling this perfume, I'm like, he's made a like green floral thing with champagne, which is such a, like, I don't really drink champagne, but I can understand why there's like a joy, there's like an excitement to that. And that's what I get from this.
Nice. Yeah, well, I think it is superb. I think, again, it just fucking nails the absolute shit out of the brief. Right, you smell this, and I don't think I'd even need the name in front of me to get that. I'd just go, oh yeah, it smells like champagne. That, yeah, definitely. It's
a
really
lovely
nice,
fruitiness
really
to it as well. There's a slightly jammy quality to the apricot and the rose. But then also, it doesn't, although it is sweet, then there's this like earthiness underneath it as well, which supports it from going into naff territory, if you know what I mean. So it's not so fizzy and sweet that you just go, ugh, because there's something deeper underneath that sits on it. That actually, the more it sits on your skin, the longer it develops.
Yeah, good. Any other thoughts on this one? No? We may as well nail the trilogy there. Yeah. Shall we go for the Virginia Tobacco Barn?
This was my least favourite, I think. And it's not that it was bad, it's just that it was so reminiscent of actual rolling tobacco, and I quit smoking like 4 or 5 years ago, and I never really want to smell that ever again. And it was just a little bit too on the nose for me. It was a little bit like, oh, this is very literal. And, you know, normally I love like quite literal tobaccos or something, but this was just a little bit too literal. And I say, like, as someone who's quit smoking, I I don't cherish.
And just
smell.
to be clear, that the tobacco is like that, the damp tobacco that you buy in jars, you know, in like an old-fashioned tobacconist. I completely get that. But for me, it was a bit. I think both the English Shoe Factory and this, the Virginian Tobacco Barn, are so photorealistically what they are. I couldn't wear them as a perfume. I enjoy them as a piece of art. Whereas the champagne house I would wear, these two, I just think they are. Yeah.
For someone who wants to smell like tobacco or leather, like.
Yeah, but really like those things.
Yeah, and not much else, really.
I think actually, I think all three of these are very wearable. And I would wear all three of them, I suppose. I think the tobacco one is my least favourite of the three, just because I'm sort of fucking bored of tobacco fragrances, and I think it's so difficult to bring something new to the tobacco space. I mean, with the champagne one and the leather one, it feels like he's doing something groundbreaking, whereas this one feels a bit like, oh, and here's my fucking version of tobacco, which is like, all right, cool, it's well done, it's nice, but it's not, it doesn't have the same sort of creative gravitas as the others.
I would completely disagree with that. Just to no, because like I agree. Like, but it's interesting. Ben said exactly right. Just from my perspective, right, and owning several natural tobacco materials, I'll tell you now that it's very difficult, even when a perfume may use the real tobacco material. It's very difficult to get that into the final perfume, and he's done it. He's done it with this, right? This. There's loads of shitty tobacco fragrances out there, is what you mean. There's loads of Fierce by fucking, Zara, that kind of shit. That like sweet, overly, okay, that sort of represents somewhat what tobacco is, or that cherry tobacco. This is very like an actual tobacco leaf. And like I say, I go into tobacconists all the time. I love smoking cigars. I love all that stuff. So, and there's so many like the Cuba fragrances. There's all these like cheap ones, and even they have some merit or something that I go, yeah, okay, I can relate to this. This has an actual, real tobacco sense to it, and I'm not surprised by what Ben said about it really reminding him of the, the rolling backy and all that kind of stuff, because it totally does have that. And that's not always a welcome thing for want to smell like or want to have in a perfume. But I just thought, I was immediately struck by that and just thought, I really appreciate that like realism, because
it's
you
clever.
don't get it very often in tobacco. And I don't really know how he's achieved that. I think I did ask him what material it was that he used, but we should have him on and ask him,
So I'm going to be a bit tedious here and say, look, I can totally buy everything you've just said, but ultimately to me it still just smells like a tobacco perfume, and it may well be technically remarkable. It might be, a sort of a piece of mastery that is hitherto unsurpassed in the tobacco fragrance generating world. But it still just smells like a tobacco perfume to me, and I can't really judge it on all the other stuff that sits below the sort of the surface. I can only really judge it on what manifests, which is the scent, and it's nice. It's a really nice tobacco perfume. It's like, fuck me, am I tired of tobacco?
To it as well, which I think sit really nicely with the actual body of the like tobacco. I think it's definitely constructed. I'm not just saying, oh, he's got this, but he might have an amazing material that really translates through, and the stuff that I have doesn't. I don't know. I might be ruining it with my formula, I don't know. Might be really simple and easy to achieve this in his because of his skill as a perfumer. I don't know, but like I just know. And again, it's not my favorite one out of the lot. The champagne one is, but I completely appreciate it for what he's done here. that somebody's given him a brief and that's what he's come out with as a tobacco fragrance, I would be very happy with that and go, that's a very good representation of what I think you wanted.
You're not going to get an argument from me on that.
Argue with me. Come on.
Decent. It's a very decent tobacco fragrance. The thing that I will say to its credit is it resists the urge to twin it with a fucking vanilla and just bore the fucking arse off everyone. It is a really good they're all really good. I mean, there's a sort of virtuosity to all of these. He's clearly extremely competent, but it's still at the end of the day, it's a fucking tobacco fragrance, and I just like, okay, yeah, I'd like something different, please. The other two, much more my sort of thing. But all three of these are very wearable, which I think is a little different to the other range, where I think they are a bit more conceptually out there. They stand more as kind of, interpretations of some idiosyncratic brief, some sort of kind of personal experience made real, and that's great, but then I feel like I'm wearing someone else's experience. It's not really my thing to wear, almost. It's anyway, yeah, so maybe we anything else to say on those three?
Reckon we've done them pretty.
Yeah, I think we've done them.
We've done them to death. Right, well, let's pick out a couple more, because we're going to fucking run out of time if we keep babbling. So Fliss.
It's really hard. I want to choose. The next two that I really liked were Playa Linda and Intravenous, and I don't know if anyone smelt either of those.
Playa Linda, I liked a lot.
Did you?
I like that a lot. I really like peachy musky. I thought I thought of you when I smelled it. I was like, oh, Fliss will like this one.
Yeah,
but I really like it. It's my third favourite behind Champagne House and the X-Straight Buen Camino. Then this one.
I can imagine wearing this like all summer. It's a hyper-realistic sun-warmed peach with osmanthus and jasmine sambac. A little bit of patchouli and grapefruit in there. It's meant to be a hot day on the sun and the beach. Playa Linda, obviously.
It's cloudy, furry, kind of textural. It's definitely got that kind of furry texture to it, which is why I thought it was sort of the muskiness of it. It's like, I don't know, it's that furry texture.
So this was one that I set aside when I sprayed them earlier and thought, yes, I really like this one.
Yeah. And actually, the more I leave it, the more I think that this might be my favourite. Hard to tell. Yes,
That's
it might be.
another one you have to wear for a day to really get the whole experience of it, because that is a wonderful one as well. And you get some of that.
He does fruity musks very well, though. He does. There's a couple that I just feel like there's the fruitiness. Whether the fruitiness in the champagne is slightly musty as well, but this and the ananas as well. There's that the sweet muskiness without it being sickly. I think he does it very good. He does it. Oh, he does it good, Danny.
He does. So it won't surprise you that I'm a bit of a miserable cunt when it comes to holidays, and I fucking hate the beach. I cannot stand the feeling of sand on my feet. It just drives me fucking insane. So I'm very much a relax by the pool with a book type person, which is exactly what I'll be doing in a few weeks in Turkey. Looking forward to that. And I could very much see myself smelling of something like this whilst relaxing by the pool. So, maybe not quite Playa Linda, but it is really good. It's still not. It's not. It couldn't be my favourite, because so far the champagne one has been comfortable favourite, I think, followed by the leather one, but it's right up there for sure.
What are your favourites then, Ben? If this is your third favourite?
Oh yeah, so my favourite were the first one was the Buen Camino Extrait de Parfum, and then the Champagne House second, and then this one for me was the third. Intravenous, the other one that you mentioned. Unless James, did you want to mention about Pale Linda?
No, not really. That's
okay. So the other one you mentioned, Intravenous, I did not like that one.
Very girly and floral.
Very floral, like and quite almost classical
really,
florals.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of yellow florals, sort of which always have that sort of classic vibe to them, don't they?
Is that the one that has like a wasabi note, kind of horseradishy smell?
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
I don't know if it has horseradish in it. I think it is the most classical of it. It's very hyacinthy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is the one with wasabi in, which I can't smell at all.
This is the one that was his hyacinth accord that I think we discussed before he made it, because I think he was talking about the artist and he put some posts up before. Do you know the artist, Fliss? Do you know what because this one's quite interesting in terms of the backstory. I don't really know.
No, I don't. I don't know her at all. No.
I don't know her. I think she was ill. I think she had like terminal cancer or something, and she'd done like her art kind of was like literally like her life as she kind of went through it, and it was all to do with like pain and suffering and bandages and whatever. Let me.
It's so green though, in terms of the hyacinth is definitely that the stemmy hyacinth and the leafy as well. I really like it. It does smell like just like a hyacinth. I mean, that sounds a really naff thing to say, but it's very hard to. There's not many perfumes that smell so honestly of hyacinth as this.
I think I mentioned too again. I'm just recalling like the conversation that I had with him at the time, because I don't think even the notes were available or whatever. I didn't know what was in it, and I kind of said, because I think he said it was a hyacinth accord, and I was like, yeah, I can get that, but I think I might have said like cyclamen or something, which actually is listed on here. Or when I can't like think of a floral, I just kind of make one up and go, oh yeah, I think it's that or whatever. And I mean, a lot of florals are essentially just the same mix of the same, similar like chemicals. Like, they often say like the same, a rose, jasmine, and like tuberose or something. You can make like every other floral from the molecules that are in those, and that is kind of true. So they're all just slight like variations of each other. But I think this kind of, I don't know what it gave me. It does give a bit of like that hyacinth, but I kind of got something else. Anyway, it says there's like yarrow in it, which is a really unusual material. Punchy mastic, poison bulb accord, amaryllis, swamp lily, cedar moss, nate, cyclamen. I mean, it's got this kind of animalic.
Swamp lily pretty much sums it up for me.
It's not your thing, is it? Then it's like this smells of death and old ladies.
I mean, it's a wonderful floral perfume. It's really, really accomplished and really good.
I don't like it at all. Yeah, but you like a big floral. I mean, this is. I hate it. I mean, I hate it. I hate it. It's not fair. I hate that style of a kind of super, femme florals. They just don't work for me at all. They do nothing. I noticed that the name is Intra-Space Venus, though, rather than the word intravenous. So it's nothing to do with. I
think it could easily be
injecting.
It's a play of Venus being the feminine goddess, but also if this lady was having cancer, she was probably also having a lot of chemotherapy, which would have been intravenously given to her. So I would imagine there would be some sort of linguistic wordplay.
What else? What else have we got here? Spite to me seemed like a sort of the most mainstreamy one.
The EDP or the ED2, because they're pretty different.
The EDT was I feel like that was got that mainstream kind of vibe, or mainstream as far as this collection goes, but I didn't really like it.
The EDP for me is just the opening, I think, is gorgeous. It's really bright green, and it's like almost like a 1950s or 1960s Dior-y kind of feel. But then suddenly underneath it, there's this like really metallic, almost brown, tinny, rusted metal smell, and something quite smoky, and it just gets angrier and angrier and angrier. And I guess it does what it says on the tin, because it smells, to me, quite spiteful. And
I definitely get that rusty tin,
really
kind
metallic,
of thing,
and I find it just doesn't stop. It's quite relentless. Whereas with the EDT, you don't get that. It stays very kind of lemony and green and fresh, but the EDP, I was like, oh my god.
I think it's the EDT that I've tried before. I can't be 100% sure, but I think I got sent it with the Hoo-Ha now Scent Social yonks and yonks ago, and it was. I remember it being, I think, my favourite of that.
Do you know what
particular
they
batch.
Both remind me of? There's something a little bit zooey about it.
Well, there's something a little bit zooey about
they really
quite a lot,
isn't
actually.
It? It's not just me.
Yeah.
I was going to say the intravenous one reminded me, not scent-wise, but stylistically a bit of that... the zoo one, the thingy. Oh God, what's it called? The woman, the trans woman with the blonde hair, peroxide
dangerous
blonde.
curves.
Something shapes. Dangerous curves. Dangerous curves. That's it. So yeah, it was in that sort of mega bombastic floral kind of space, but it similar vibe.
I think there's a use of synthetics as well that gives it a very similar texture to a lot of them. And the Spite EDT really reminds me of the first 18 hours of Carré Blanc.
Yeah. I mean, as far as Spite is concerned, I really didn't kind of get Spite to begin with, either the EDT or the EDP. I don't have them actually in this little lot that I've got, but I know that one pretty well because I had quite a few samples and I wore it different times. And I actually think in many ways it's his best one, just simply because it does something that I think is very subtle. It has like a real subtlety that some of the others kind of lack in a way that they're I like certainly this Kukuruka one that I'm spelling out. What is it? Kuku or something. That is just
Kukuruka.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I'm getting a bit more of something now. That one's a bit overwhelming. I won't talk about that. No, we're talking about Spite. I think, like I say, there's like the kind of Cellier sort of nod there. There's a kind of reimagining of Rose, almost akin to the way that like Jean-Claude Helena did for Frederic Malle with that Rose and Queer, because it has like a slight leathery sort of undercurrent, that sort of like violet rose, and it's not an easy to work out like rosy thing to begin with. It's got like a transparency, it's got that metallic likeness. I think Spite is like, and I think Spite was something that he really maybe agonized over, and I think that's hence why you had maybe the slightly different iteration of it, not just a different concentration, but a vastly different perfume, as Fliss said. I found that one really intriguing to the point where I got to a point where I really didn't connect with it or particularly like it to begin with. But the more that I kind of dug into it and like wore it a few times, the more like fascinating that I found it. Yeah.
So Spite, I quite like the EDT. I think it's probably the most commercially viable of the releases. It's enjoyable. Yeah, my favourite by some margin was the champagne one, followed by English Shoe Factory, and then I could probably allow Player Linda. And despite what I said about the tobacco one, it's sort of up there as a kind of wearable tobacco. I do think it's a very good perfume. I don't know, maybe I'm just not feeling tobacco at the moment. So those are the ones that I thought were great. And then there's quite a few which were just there were a few which were just confusing and I outright didn't like. Kukuru Cuckoo, the super, what's the intravenous, didn't like that at all. And I'm sort of on the fence about Nanas. It's a bit kind of, it's sort of fun and silly and banana-y, but not sure. But yeah, to me, the champagne one, by like a country fucking mile, is my favourite out of this lot. So I'm probably.
What I thought was quite funny is that as much as the briefs are all very like well thought out and quite long, and they're obviously quite personal and all the rest, but I thought the whole collection was quite fun.
Yeah.
Like every single perfume, even if I didn't really like it, it made me think, oh, this is fun. And in fact, I was writing notes and I was just writing the first sort of few words that came to mind. And in the end, I just stopped writing fun because like they were all like fun. And then like go on a little bit more. But I found the whole lot to be kind of fun and to wear.
Some were fun. Yeah. Some were not. When Camino won Kukuru Cuckoo, these didn't strike me as fun, sort of, easygoing.
You say that, but Cuckoo...
Oh, I don't know if I mean easygoing like that. But I mean fun as in like, I don't know, they didn't feel...
Hey,
yeah,
fun people wear these.
Yeah, they didn't seem to they didn't feel like they were taking themselves too seriously. Do you know what I mean?
Now, I disagree there. I think some of these do take themselves very seriously.
The briefs, I feel like, do, definitely. But the perfumes, to me, just made me... That's why sometimes I didn't really feel like they lined up with the briefs, because I felt like, this is a bit more just...
Oh, right, yeah, no, I get what you mean. Sorry, James.
Okay.
I
just on that note, I'm just saying, you're saying like Kukuru Cuckoo's not that fun, etc. Well, I'm just reading about it now. It's a perfume made for Mitchell and Hannah, some of the best friends I've ever known, in celebration of their April Fool's Day marriage. The materials include copal negro, cade tar, moss, cedar, muskrat, orris, papyrus, pine, smoked hinoki, ink, angelica, saffron, and wormwood. I'm actually really intrigued by this perfume because it could have been just a smoky tar fest. It's boring. There's not much to it. Even we're talking about the Zoo, Thingy's own perfume, the one that smells like the underground car park, but to me has just loads of woody ambers and stuff. This is way more natural. And I'm not even into those smoky perfumes, but there's so much underneath this that is like coming through now. I'm quite intrigued by it. And I think if it's fun is what you want, this is a fun perfume. It's not just that like relentless smoke once it's settled. And I find this one really interesting. So
to wrap up, if we are wrapping up, should we seriously just do our top threes and like to
Yes. Well, I feel like I've done my top three. So Ben, give us your top three.
So it was Buen Camino Extrait Parfum was for me really my absolute favourite, and then behind that was the Champagne House Harvest, which I loved. Yes. I thought that was brilliant. And then Player Linda was behind that one again. Just like that. To be honest, all three I thought, I could rearrange them as well. They were all brilliant. I thought I really liked all three. Yeah.
Good call. Agree with you on two of those. Did not like the Buen Camino, but what can you do? Right, Fliss.
I liked
top picks.
Player Linda. I think it's just really lovely, easy, fruity, fuzzy, delicious wear. And I can really imagine it in the sun, blooming and becoming delicious. I also liked Nanas I think it's just a really fun perfume. And then I like English Shoe Factory. I don't think I'd actually ever wear it, but I think in terms of fulfilling a brief, I think it's fucking brilliant.
See, I feel so odd, so conflicted about this because normally I feel like if you wouldn't wear it, there's slim fucking chance I would, because like your tastes are more adventurous than mine. But I would wear the absolute shit out of the English.
I think it's quite masculine for me, and even for me. It is.
But I'd wear that to like I'd wear that to a job interview, probably in the city. And where
everyone else is wearing Sauvage or something from Le Labo, and you just wandering like that, going, fucking smell me, give me the job.
Smell me.
Sniff that.
Yeah. Sniff that.
Smell my cheese.
Smell my kumquat.
Come on, smell it. Oh my God! No, smell my kumquat. Ben, you are going to have to isolate that and just sort of split.
I will do no such thing.
Yeah. he made a very insincere face. James,
if anyone would like to buy an hour, you can find me at Talking Sense. Just saying.
Yeah. Just saying.
Come on, man.
James, I'm going to assume champagne was your favourite still.
No, I'm going to surprise you
but you've just been contrary.
Well, I am
now.
because it's not even in my top 3, and I do own that one. No, what? I mean I love it, but it's as far as like I want to be kind of interested, and the problem is I own that perfume now, so I'm kind of like ticked it off. It's on a list. It was good, and I appreciate it for what it is. And like I said, I really love those for what they are. But they're not what Carter's about. Carter is about his brand. He's about his Chronotope ones, which I find infinitely more like interesting. I like those as a technical exercise, and the way that they are what they are, and what I've said about them is all completely true. But these are so much more interesting to me. I mean, so I'll just give you my 3. So basically, Buen Camino, because it's just a wonderful thing. I really like the intravenous.
Which one though?
Sorry,
because like for me, the EDP and the extrait were quite different, and it's not that I didn't like the EDP, but the extrait was for me well.
I've only
better.
got the extrait here, so and I remember what the other ones were like because I've worn the first 3 quite extensively, so I do, and I'm recalling them from smelling these. But this is definitely just a lot more like spicy in the top and stuff. But generally speaking, it's pretty much the same perfume. Then obviously I really like intravenous because I get that kind of like it's quite a sort of emotional kind of like brief for me, and it is a very sort of emotional kind of perfume. And if you don't like big floral stuff, I can understand, but it's also that medicinal weirdness that I really like. And then just now I've just fallen for Kukuruku because I've smelled it on the strip. Like I say, at first I was like, it's very tarry, it's very much that like smoky kind of thing, but that like dissipates, and then there's so much more to like enjoy underneath. So in actual fact, they are my 3, just off the cuff. Like I really like them. I also like Spy. I like a lot of his work. It's hard to pick 3, really hard.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the work is all excellent, and even if you sort of don't like some of them, it's hard to argue with the sort of the competence, and I like, even if I find some of the briefs a little bit kind of too involved, I like a brief to be sort of well, this is roughly this kind of thing, rather than like, here's my fucking personal
there's not
narrative.
A lot of room to make your own story out of them, is there? They're
definitely his stories, and with those, it always feels like you're trying to snatch a sort of glimpse of someone else's fucking life, whereas I don't know, briefs around Roman fucking gods or whatever. It's not like, it's like you can have some element of context to put into that and stuff. Whereas this, it's almost like there's no context. There's just his experience, and you're trying to wrap your head around that. But I find the perfumes all very well done, and they are all very clever interpretations of quite complex briefs, and I think he's done some great work. There are some that I really like, some that I don't much care about, and some that I dislike a lot. But I mean, that I think is fair and exactly as you'd expect with a sort of range this wide of any perfume. So, but I'm personally very impressed with his work, and obviously I'm extremely grateful for him sending over all these samples. So, any final thoughts, Ben?
Quite surprised in the amount of crossover, actually, the ones that we all liked. It's not often that we sort of all cross over on sort of like 2 or 3. But, like Player Linda came up a few times. The Champagne House Harvest came up a few times for all of us. So, yeah, there's, I guess that says something.
Well, and you and James definitely like the Buen Camino. I think I might revisit Cuckoo. I mean, I think you used the word... It's got a sort of starry attack, which I think is a very apt way of describing it. It is like being fucking attacked straight out of the sprite. Like, yeah, have this in your face, wallop, whereas when it settles, it's definitely easier to work with. But yeah, okay, Fliss, any final thoughts from you?
No, I really enjoyed it. I like I said, I found them very kind of zooish in their textures and the level of difference in them, and also some of them I found, so like the Spite EDP, the level of aggression in the bottom of it, I was really surprised by, and I pretty much loathed it, but I kind of loathe it with a passion. So hopefully that's okay, my darling Carter.
Yeah, exactly. James, any final thoughts from you?
Just that I think I'm sort of notoriously not really, I kind of gravitate towards your like trained perfumers and like, all that sort of stuff. And I kind of maybe seem a bit like snobbish about that, but I do have a genuine like passion for like people who are passionate about perfumery and want to try new ideas and things. And I think saying that they're like the zoo is a real feather in Carter's cap, which it certainly should be, because we're comparing him to, Christophe Laudamiel, who was a brilliant perfumer.
Laudamiel.
And, to even glimpse the spirit of his like work is to say that you are doing something in perfumery that is different from what everyone else is doing. So I think that's a thing to take away from it. And I don't kind of mind being like kind of force fed, or in the case of intravenous drip fed, the kind of the narrative, because well like I kind of accept that sometimes and go, yeah, maybe I need to like have perfume that completely takes me to this is what it is, because I know that the person who's doing it is doing it for the right reasons. They're not part of some bullshit like marketing fucking branding kind of meeting where they've gone, oh, let's try and wrap some like crap around this perfume. It's really real, and it's that like punk sort of DIY kind of spirit that I think is well and truly alive in Carter's work. And I can't help, even if these are some perfumes that I'm like, I don't necessarily love them, or they're not going to be something that I'm necessarily going to buy or whatever, I'd like to support him, but where I'd really find something that I can go, yes, I really like that. And with the Champagne House Harvest, that was taken out of my hands because, like I say, my partner like bought it, and I'm really glad she did. But I think one day he's just going to keep at it, and I think his brand is going from strength to strength as well, because people are gravitating towards this kind of thing because they want something different from perfumery, and they're not getting it from brands who are going, let's just copy Le Labo or whoever else and try and get picked up by an Estee Lauder or somebody, gain a bit of traction and then try and get. It's such a cynical way, of looking at like the industry, when you've got people like this who have actually got real like care and attention that they're putting into the brand, and I really like see that, and I kind of feel it, and that's the main thing that I take from it. It's not necessarily about the smell of the perfumes, even though they are good, and I don't know how he gets all of that into one perfume. I find it really impressive. Yeah, I mean, there are other people who do it, and I've often said this, and I don't mean to be mean about it because I love Sarah McCartney, but I think she has these kind of wacky sort of briefs where they're like, they've got loads of stuff going on, but I don't feel that she kind of nails the technical aspect as well as a Carter. Some people are just naturally have a really good feel for it, and I think he does. And that's my 2 pennies on it.
Excellent. Well, very good 2 pennies they are too. Okay, well, look, let's wrap it up. I think it's been fantastic getting into them. We are, of course, super grateful to Carter for sending these over. We will be back next week, in 2 weeks, with what is going to be the last Les Oderants for season 2. We'll be taking a summer break. Don't worry, we'll be coming back. Wouldn't deprive you of our fucking brilliance. That would be bordering on criminal. So we will be back for the last of the series in 2 weeks' time. Until then, have a fantastic fucking fragrant time and all that shit. I've been Dan, they've been them, and we will speak to you very soon on Les Oderants. Bye!
Bye! Bye! Kumquat.
You should just do like the end bit.
Such a child.
Kumquat,
Such a child.
Like 1,000,000 times. You know, the little after the break bit. I've not had one of them for a while, like after the credits.
Yeah. Add a beat to it. Add like a break beat to it and just have like, kumquat loop. Kumquat. Be fucking brilliant.
Kumquat.